And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Tim Binnall.
No commercials, no subscriptions, no network, no rules. And at the end of the day, my friends, no comparison. Welcome to another edition of BOA The Revival. Really, really looking forward to this week's program. We're journeying back to the flat earth, my friends. And for folks who are listening, because of the guest tonight, our guest is Mark Sargent. He's essentially like the face of the flat earth. He's like the world's most famous flat earther, let's say. Yeah, it's true, Mark. So for folks who are tuning in here who never listened to Binnall of America before, I am personally not a flat earther. I'm a globalist or whatever. But I am friends with the flat earth movement. I consider myself a friend of the flat earthers, essentially. So, and we've had Mark on the show a couple of times in the past. I had the pleasure of hanging out with him a little bit down in Dallas, which is kind of like the good old days now when you really, Jesus, wow. Back in November of 2019, we hung out down in Dallas. And just to sort of set things up a little bit here, it's been a tumultuous few years for the flat earth movement. I kind of dipped out a little bit, post-pandemic. It seemed to me, I'm not in the trenches of the flat earth, so I kind of was like, all right, well, there's nothing really going on in the flat earth movement right now. So then all of a sudden, towards the end of, it's been a tumultuous few years. We're going to get into this as we get along here with Mark, but the flat earth movement's lost. 3 folks passed away, 3 prominent folks, Rob Skiba, Mac Parhar, and Bob Nodal. We'll talk about them later on in the program, but this is part of the tumultuousness of the last few years. Right. And then since the start of 2025, it's been absolutely fucking crazy. And a bunch of people have left the flat earth movement, and we'll get into that. As a result, it seems, of this expedition that happened to Antarctica, this Colorado pastor, Will Duffy. I'll just bring folks up to speed before we bring Mark in here, so that way, he doesn't have to explain the whole background. This Colorado pastor named Will Duffy brought a bunch of people, pro and con flat earth, down to Antarctica to observe the sun under the I don't know what you'd say, but to test the theory of the flat earth, which is that the sun would set down in Antarctica, but actually at this time of year, the sun stays there in the sky for 24 hours. This convinced, they said, the flat earthers who came on the trip, they were like, all right, we're not flat earthers anymore. This proves that the earth is round, or certainly upends the flat earth theory. And then this kind of spread like a virus. And since then, other folks, Robbie Davidson, who put on the Flat Earth Conference down in Dallas and the other events, he dropped out. Patricia Steer, who many people may know from the film Behind the Curve, she dropped out. And other folks have dropped out of the flat earth movement. So it's crazy right now. It's absolutely crazy. And I've only kind of followed it tangentially, and I heard about the expedition, right before it went off, because the pastor there, Will, sent out a press release. And so I reached out to Will Duffy, and he was unable to come on the show before the expedition, unable to come on the show after the expedition, because he was wiped out, he said, and reached out to him right as I reached out to Mark to set up this show to sort of do a counterpoint, not a debate, but to have him on and have Mark on, and we'll kind of like really get into this in different interviews. And I have not heard from Will Duffy. So the invitation remains. He's welcome to come on Binnall of America, talk about the flat earth expedition to Antarctica. But Mark stepped up to the plate immediately after I sent him an email. So kudos to him. And as I said, Mark knows I'm not a flat earther. So I give him credit for coming on the program to talk to me about all this, because I am a friend of the flat earth and I'm fascinated by what's going on. So with all that said, forgive me, folks, for the very long introduction, but I wanted to kind of bring you all up to speed on what's been going on. Mark Sargent, welcome back to Binnall of America, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, and it's been a while. We haven't. 2019 Dallas seems like forever ago, and technically it was. We're coming up on 6 years, 5.5 years, and then, as you know, the very next year, the world started grinding down to a halt, and our conferences were limited to East Coast events run by Karen B. Mm-hmm. And she did a nice job, but we couldn't do any international conferences. We didn't do meetups at all for several years. Because we couldn't do venues that, or we refused to do venues that had masks. So they required masks, and so I was like, all right, well. We were kind of stuck. So where do you want to jump off from? Where do you want to? I mean, the opening monologue wasn't bad. There were some errors in there, but you wouldn't have known because a lot of what has happened in the last 2-3 weeks.
Okay, well, correct me where I'm wrong, because like I said, I'm just trying to wrap my arms around what the fuck's going on, but I don't even know all these people and shit. Only because I'm friends with Robbie Davidson. I saw the thing that came up that he dropped out. The problem of what happened was, like with anything, look, I'm a big believer in good writing, and I will find the plot holes and everything. I'm one of those guys that yells at the screen in any movie and television. It's like, that is not how you write that scene or this particular storyline. That is not how it goes. Okay. What happened? Oh, boy. Let's go backwards. We're going to work backwards. So... Okay. Jaron, when he got back from the trip, he was already acting squirrely before the trip. Again, what I'm going to say, quite a bit of this is going to be speculation. It is my opinion. I have been piecing whatever has been happening together because everything happened in such a rapid succession that everyone in the Flat Earth community is like, wait a minute, what's that? Who's that? And why is that person doing that? None of it made any damn sense. Mm-hmm. In Jaron's case, before he left on the trip, before he got down to Antarctica, we've always talked, you've heard the term shill many times in your life, and it gets thrown around like candy all over the place. And we've always people have been accused in the truther community of being shills all the time. I have been accused of being a shill nonstop. No more, mind you, after what's happened recently. Before Jaron went on the trip, there was a moment when he was doing a live stream that caught everybody's attention when he said, well, if I go down there and I see the 24-hour sun, I'm going to have to re-examine everything I know about the flat earth map, and I may abandon it entirely. And the chat room just exploded. It's like, what are you talking about? You're freaking Jaronism. Why would you say something like, yeah, but you haven't gone on the trip yet? So he goes down there with two other people of ours. One is Austin Whitsitt, and another is a woman named Lisbeth Acosta. Mm-hmm. And along with 5 Globers, expensive trip. We still don't know to this day. I mean, yeah, Will Duffy was spearheading the thing, but it wasn't his money. I'm very curious to know where the money came from. We still don't know, but it was pushing $300,000 for the trip. It's $35,000 a head to go down. Right. The reason why no one's gone down there in the last decade, on pro or against flat Earth, it's just ridiculously expensive. Plus, it's miserable. I mean, you have to actually sleep in a tent on the snow. It's awful. I turned it down. It was awful. And plus, for me, the Antarctic sun, which is difficult to explain to people anyway, didn't mean anything at all to me, because at 1 out of every 10 interviews, it's like, what's the weakest point in flat Earth? I go, probably the Antarctic sun, because, if it's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, it can't be just one light source. There's something else going on there, but it doesn't really matter because we don't know what's going on in the sky because we're not up there and the sky doesn't prove the ground. So who cares? And again, the average person, 99% of all flat earthers that get into flat Earth don't get into it because of the sun. Most of them get into it because of long distance photography. Some get into it because of physics. Others get into it because of the space program. Almost no one gets into it because of the sun. So if you didn't get into it because of the sun, why would you get out of it because of the sun? So our 3 people get down there, and 2 of them, Austin Whitsitt and Lisbeth Acosta, it's like, well, 24-hour sun, who cares? Let's go home. Which was why I wasn't going to go. I told those guys, it's like, listen, I'm the last person you want to go on this trip because I absolutely do not care. But Jaron sung a different tune, which was weird for us. And we didn't really understand why, because he's like, well, I have to tell the truth. And when I come back, I'm going to reevaluate everything. It's like, okay. You remember, he's OG. He's been there, since 2015. He came in, He came to the group shortly after me. And then, he's like a major, or was a major player in the flat Earth movement. He was one of the focal points in Behind the Curve, the documentary, along with Patricia Steere. And
when he gets back, he starts making some videos that are saying, well, he's not being shy about it. Well, Antarctic sun proves the globe. And it's like, where are you going with this, right? And then in a very short amount of time, he then flips over and does something way out of character, which is go, oh, and by the way, SpaceX and NASA and all the space programs are absolutely legit. The globe or the flat Earth is dead. Blah blah blah. Long live the globe. It's like, what are you talking about? You're Jaronism. You wrote the book on how to trash space programs. Why do space programs have anything to do with Antarctica whatsoever? They don't. But he just made this huge pivot over. And so at that point, we start looking, really carefully at him. And then something happens, which, again, goes beyond the pale here. So the following week, so he does that SpaceX video the week before. The following week, I do episode, and this is not that long ago. This is only like 3 weeks ago. I do episode 500 towards the third week of February. And Patricia Steer has been my co-host for 9 months, mind you. She came back into the Flat Earth community in June of 2024 last year with a vengeance. Just came in, did shows and in chat rooms, and she's absorbing all sorts of material. And we do episode 500. She's absolutely flawless. And then a couple days later, I get an email from her, or I say a Skype letter. When I was gone, I come back, and Skype letter saying, so Jaron's right. Antarctica proves this, Antarctica proves that. I'm leaving the show. I'm leaving Flat Earth. Goodbye. Poof, gone.
Yeah.
No foreshadowing, no warning, whatever. And then the very next day, that was on a Friday. On the Saturday, Robbie Davidson, the current leader of the Christian side of Flat Earth, otherwise known as Celebrate Truth, out of a freaking clear blue sky, just posts a headstone on his channel with Flat Earth saying, I'd like to act with integrity. I've come into new evidence that proves blah, blah, blah. And that I've not been compromised or bribed or coerced in any sort of way. Now, what was interesting to me about this, and again, it shock waves going through, especially with the Christian community, because as you know, that's a twofer, which is the Christian community is like, whoa, your channel's about biblical cosmology, right? What has biblical cosmology got to do with Antarctica, right? At all. It doesn't. So why are you, and not only did he burn down Celebrate Truth, I mean, we're talking deleting videos, killing metrics, went to celebratetruth.org. I mean, all social media just, in a matter of hours. Everyone was shocked. However, I wasn't, because I was told about this days in advance. I was told that Robbie Davidson was going to do this, and I was told that Patricia Steer was going to do this. And I said nothing because why would I? I want to see, just because you hear
why would you? Right.
And it's like, okay, all right, let's see what happens here. Now, what was interesting about this, I'm sorry, two things. One was Robbie Davidson on that headstone cut and pasted text directly from Patricia Steer's email. I'm going, okay, so these two are working together, obviously. I'm not shy about using the word collusion. And then what's more interesting is that the person I heard it from, the root person of where this came from, the information was from Jaron Campanella, from Jaronism. Mm-hmm. So how did Jaron know before me that, one, Patricia was going to leave and Robbie Davidson was going to leave? And he was proud of it. It's like, oh no, he helped flip them. And the 100% guarantee, it was like, okay, what if one of them changed their mind, had a change of heart? Oh, no. He was 100% spot on that this was going to happen. So the three of them were working together. And then again, they got greedy. This is where the whole thing falls apart. Another OG member who had not been on the scene in some years, his name was Paul on the Plane.
Paul on the Plane, yeah.
Paul on the Plane. He had been around for a while, but then decided to, I believe the term is concentrate on his real life, the non-social media stuff. So he drops off of social media entirely. And his channel was empty, just gone. And he just, for several years, haven't heard from Paul in a while. Out of the blue, he comes in and says new evidence has been presented, not been compromised in any way. Flat Earth is a cult. And I mean, he's posting this stuff. It's like, what do you mean flat Earth is a cult? You specialized in satellites, right? That's what you did. And it's like, okay, what am I missing here? And then all of a sudden somebody reminds me. They said, oh yeah, by the way, Paul and Patricia and Robbie, you got to remember, they were part of a crypto coin thing that died some years ago. They lost their shirts on it. In fact, the channel was called Axion, AXION Today. You could Google it right now, and you'll find it. All you have to do is click on images and blah blah blah. And they were pushing this back in 2021, and it died. They sunk a whole bunch of money into it, and you're not supposed to get high in your own supply, especially with crypto. And they invested heavily, and it just gone. It's wiped out.
Yeah.
So, and then all three of them start jumping in to Jaron's chat room, right? And like they're backing Jaron. It's like, okay. It reminded me a lot of, and I don't know if you're old enough to remember the when World Wrestling did that whole NWO thing where Hulk Hogan went,
I think we're probably the same age, but I appreciate that.
Hulk Hogan turned into Hollywood Hogan. Everybody wore black, and some of the good guys became bad guys. And it was great for ratings, right? It was great. And so it's like, what are we doing here? Are we doing NWO? Is that what we're doing? Because there is no reason because these are very different people. Paul is very different from Patricia. Patricia is different from Robbie, and Robbie is very different from Jaron. And yet they're all now best buddies. On top of that, Jaron is now friends with Duffy and McToon, one of our biggest trolls ever. And it's like, what is freaking happening here? So at this point,
so what is happening here?
I have zero doubt what's happening here. And that is at some point. And so then people start microscoping everything that Jaron's ever said in the last calendar year. And the best we can tell is the whole Antarctic trip was just it wasn't even initially it's like, well, maybe it was just a recruiting thing to see if we could get, because they only got out of the three people, they got Jaron, but Jaron was turned long before that trip. And it was just to set up for a documentary that are making with, and the documentary is trying to compete with Behind the Curve. Behind the Curve has never gone away. Is now a part of the syllabus in schools. I can't tell you how many schools I've done because it was on Netflix. It's now being like required viewing, everything from high schools up to grad students is like
great film.
Well, it's not bad. I mean, it did pretty
I love
well.
it. I think it's great.
I did too. And I liked it because I saw what the studio audiences did. They liked the drama. They liked the back and forth. It wasn't a propaganda piece, and it wasn't a straight up I hate flat Earth piece. But the point was, it wasn't going away. And so they're trying to make a documentary, and the Antarctic trip was just a staged so they could film as much as they could. And the documentary is going to be about globalists that hate flat earthers and flat earthers that have now flipped. Personally, I don't see the drama in it. It's going to be Jaron's journey. I guarantee it. He is going to be one of the main focal points in this.
Yeah.
And there's questions I'm sorry. So short version, Jaron was flipped with monetary concerns. Was he absolutely bought? Yeah, in my opinion, absolutely 100% bought. The question is for how much and by who. And best we can tell, he was good all the way up to summer. August 14th was I think his last flat Earth debate where he's hammering on globalists. And then by the end of August, that's when he starts getting squirrely. What gets weirder is, again, if Patricia Steer, my co-host, if Jaron was talking about Patricia flipping the day after my 500th episode, that means Patricia was already gone, which means Patricia was already, it's like, okay, she's doing the show with me, knowing full well she's already out.
Right.
Backtrack that. It's like, okay, so that would explain why she got back in the first place. There's a saying I came up with, she had to get back in before she got back out. That takes it all the way back to June. So Patricia predates Jaron. And it's like, oh God, it can't be that bad, but it looks like it's that bad. So the question is this just a monetary thing? Again, the three people, Paul and Robbie and Patricia, because they lost their asses on crypto and they wanted to make up, what they did. And it's like, okay, we'll sell out to whatever think tank approaches us. And at that point, so you get Patricia first. Work on Jaron. I believe that Robbie and Paul on the plane, Paul Lindbergh, they weren't pulled into the last minute because Robbie wasn't doing anything. I mean, the what I'm getting at here is this, and I know you have questions, and I'm sorry I'm rambling.
I don't know.
But there's ground to cover here, which is what they were doing was. I've always complained. We've always boasted, the Flat Earth community, that nobody flips. Everybody's good. 10 years, we've been rock solid because we could spot it a mile away. But we initially were thinking, it's like, okay, somebody will jump to 1 million subs, they'll get endorsements, and then they'll go off road. That didn't happen. What seems to have happened is because of what you were mentioning earlier, we have losses in key losses on the board. People that have passed away. That has all opened up windows for low-hanging fruit to be compromised, meaning everybody that has gotten hit has been in a very, very tight money situation. Again, the 3 people that lost big on crypto. Jaron has always looked for the hot side hustle. Always, always, always. It's always bugged him that the globalists make more. Even the reaction channels to Flat Earth make more money than he does because we can't get monetized. We can't get this. We can't even get freaking verified checks on our channels because it's like YouTube hates us. I get it. So at that point, it's like, then we have to circle the wagons. We have to figure out where the bleeding is. It's like, all right, who is? And then Will Duffy comes out at one point. Here's one more little wrinkle for you. This one bugs me because I'm trying to figure it out. And that is Will Duffy came out during a debate a few days later and used that debate as sort of like a platform to throw out some propaganda. It's like, there's an exodus leaving Flat Earth. He was so proud of this. And he's like, and he just started rattling off names. And he was batting 1,000, by the way. Every name he rattled off, he only rattled off, 10 names.
Yeah.
4 of which were the ones we just talked about. And then the others were smaller channels. But I thought it was interesting. And I had to go back and listen to it a couple times. And like, there was one name he absolutely did not mention, and that was Patricia Steer. And it's like, why would you not mention Patricia Steer? It's like, that's a big feather in your cap, right? It's my co-host. She was in the documentary. Why wouldn't you mention her? No one will address it. Jaron will not address how he knew that Robbie and Patricia were going to leave ahead of time. Robbie and Paul and Patricia won't address the crypto thing. Oh, by the way, that channel was out there up until 2 days ago, and we just ripped the hell out of it. We grabbed everything we could off of it, and then as soon as we started posting it on Facebook, 12 hours later, it was gone.
Yeah.
And again, it was up for 3 years. The errors were made on their part. It's like, why would you leave that channel up? Did you really want to get away from it so badly that no one even wanted to look at it again for 3 years? And then, after we, put a spotlight on it, you by the way, that's not a good look when you tear it down as soon as we start pointing at it.
Right.
So, yeah, short version. It's not a mass exodus. Look, they were flipped. You want the definition of shill? There it is. They let me give credit where credit is due. If Patricia got in just to get out, because she wasn't relevant, she was gone. By the way, Robbie Davidson was out. Paul the Plane was so out, we had to remind people who the hell he was, right? But Patricia played it smart. She got in immediately. Again, I was without a co-host when Karen left. When Karen B left, I was without a co-host for a week, and Patricia was right there. And she could have like, yeah, let's get the band back together. Boo, boo, boo. And we just hit the ground running. I was like, cool, wonderful. It's a little strange, but I never would have thought, along those lines.
Yeah.
But if she was turned then, meaning if she was already turned back in June or late May, my God, I underestimated that woman. Because she was damn near. I mean, yeah, there were a couple little hiccups along the way where I was trying to figure out where her head was at, but I never once thought that. Well, because why would I think that that she had been flipped? And then, as a little parting gesture, or she was using it as a hook, 4 weeks before she left the show, she posted this thing on Telegram. You got to remember, she was hurting for money. She's like, hey, just bought my dream car. Everything is great. She posts this shot of a big bow on one of the most expensive Mercedes I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I think fully loaded. I think it was $150K. I was like, oh my God. So she was like, kiss my expensive ass. Get the hell out. And you want one little more validation for that? I'll give you quick validation. You want to know how I know I'm onto something here? Because none of those 4 people that I mentioned, Jaron and Robbie and Paul and Patricia, 3 of them are friends of mine, by the way.
Yeah.
None of them reached out after I did an interview a couple of days ago where I just laid all this thing out. And none of them reached out saying, Mark, I think you're off base. Mark, maybe we should talk about it. Mark, you may be blowing out proportions. Crickets. No one wants to talk to me and to explain themselves or say, oh, maybe you're just reaching. It's like, no, I'm not, because you guys aren't acting anywhere like, and I know there's so many people in our community, they want to give people the benefit of the doubt. It's like, look, I was with you 2 months ago, but these are OG people. I've known these people a long time, and what the speed, again, Jaron says all space programs are real, and then immediately, Patricia and Robbie and Paul in a weekend. It's like, oh, nope. And what are the coincidence that Patricia and Robbie and Paul are the only 3 members of the crypto club that got wiped out 4 years ago? Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay.
Anyway, so there's my opening shots.
There you go. All right. So if you're theorizing here, speculating that they were compromised, well, did anyone reach out to you? Why wouldn't they come to you to flip?
Well, here's the thing. When it comes to flipping people, it's tricky because first off, you don't want to approach somebody. I mean, you profile them and you say, okay, how vulnerable are these people? I mean, it is like television, the movies, where it's like, okay, what are the chances they're going to flip? And do they have pressure points that we can apply? The carrot or the stick. If there's a whole bunch of carrot, you don't have to worry about the stick. In their case, by the way, there's a wonderful little thing I could give you, the Axion disclosure thing, where they said, oh, by the way, they closed it down 4 years ago because they realized they were doing something illegal. That case is still open out there. If they decide it's what do they call it, an unsecured crypto thing, whatever, that they were absolutely doing illegally, then they still could be on the hook for that. But point is, if you have pressure points, you go after them. If the person doesn't really have pressure points, you don't approach them. Or maybe but of course it's not perfect. You could approach them, but then you'd have to, you know how that goes. It's like, okay, you turned down our offer. Unfortunately, you can't say anything. If you do say anything to anybody, like you were approached, we'll burn you down. Your bank accounts will be wiped out. We will make life so hell for you. You will regret, plus we'll destroy your credibility if that's the case. But most of the time they know who they're going after. Everybody they went after, in this case, we'll just say the top 5 were all in financial trouble. And they needed the money. And look, I'm not mad. I've said this on previous things. I'm not upset about, look, for a lot of people, it's still all about the rent. And that is, how much is flat earth worth to you, right? We're not talking about the biblical side. That's different. But if it's just flat earth, not the biblical side, but if it's just flat earth, how much is it worth to you? Is it worth 200,000? Is it worth $500,000? If somebody puts $1 million in front of you, people will do a lot of stuff for $1 million. The biblical side, trickier, because then you're talking about a belief system and you're talking about, all or nothing, hell or no hell. And which is why, Robbie and Paul are catching more grief than Patricia or Jaron, although Jaron is catching a lot of hell. So sorry, I didn't mean
That's all right. No, that's cool. That's cool. Now you're by nature a conspiracy theorist. Let's be honest. You're flat earth. So you've kind of like taken these events and put them into a new conspiracy theory, but you have no compunction to just sort of just look at this from an Occam's razor point of view, where it's like either they wanted to get out all along and they kind of were just like, this is the off ramp. This guy just dropped out. This is I fuck out of flat earth because I don't believe it anymore. Maybe they never believed it in the first place. Who knows? I can't get into their minds, but so you don't just give them the benefit of the doubt here that maybe this is just organically how it happened. This guy came back. He's like, I don't believe in flat earth anymore. And they would talk to him and they were like, yeah, you're probably right. Just kind of makes sense. And yeah, I'm kind of all set. I haven't really been, except for Patricia, I haven't been mixed up in this for a long time. And you're right. And I'm going to come forward and sort of have your back because I've known you for a long time. And I'm also out.
absolutely possible. And to that point, I actually defended Jaron a lot. I mean, I made videos and live streams along, to that point. It's like, okay, look, Jaron, like when he initially said that if he went down there, that he'd have to reevaluate everything. Look, he misspoke. Jaron's not the most articulate person in the world. It's like I gave him the benefit of the doubt. And then when he came back, he was acting all conflicted. It's like, yeah, Jaron's probably having a hard time, and you're beating up on him, and maybe you should give him a break. And I said, look, Jaron hasn't bought a BMW. Of course, that came to bite me in the ass because a week later was when Patricia's car showed up. And Austin was good. There was a secondary problem, which was because Jaron said what he said down the ice. The other two people, notably Austin Whitsitt, was caught in the blast radius, which was okay. Austin's there next to Jaron, therefore he must be an accomplice. He's standing in the bank with him when he's being robbed. Therefore, they must be working together. And Austin went into damage control mode for weeks. But after that, I gave Jaron every benefit of the doubt, no question. And he was the only focal point. But when Patricia wrote that letter, which I still have not read on air, and they were really weird about me reading, Patricia, and I'll send it to you after the show if you want. Patricia in the letter said, I think it would be a great idea if you read this on air. And it's like, why? You're not one to open up transparency and air laundry like that. And then when Robbie used the cut and paste because he's lazy. He cut and paste part of Patricia's letter into his thing. And it's like, okay, since how long have you guys been talking to it? And again, I never witnessed a crisis of conscience, a crisis of intellectual discovery with her. She never came to me at any given point. It's like, oh, you know what? I mean, yeah, at one point she said, I don't like the way people are treating Jaron, which is interesting because given Jaron's extracurricular stuff, I don't know why Patricia would be defending him, but she's like, oh, I'm thinking of leaving the community because people are yelling at Jaron. All right. I don't know what that means, but whatever. And we talked her back into it. But I think episode 500, the week of, what was it, the 18th of February, I think that was her drop dead date, which was she had to get out by then because everybody was going to go. Yeah. Willing to give Patricia the benefit of the doubt? Sure. Except the way she left. It was the most generic of emails, one email, no phone calls, no precursor, no foreshadowing. Again, if you watched her during the 500th episode, I'm just staring at her, why rewound it? It's like, she's absolutely flawless. I mean, Karen during her last episode was in tears because she didn't want to go, but Patricia, absolutely the opposite. So benefit of the doubt. And Robbie, come on, Robbie Davidson, how can I give him the benefit of the doubt? I watched him let the Howard Stern come in during the first conference, let Logan Paul bribe him thousands of dollars to look the other way so he could punk the Denver conference, and then let Jimmy Kimmel's team come in during the 2019 Dallas conference, right. And without telling anybody, which is why he was upset about us. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing. I can't give benefit of the doubt to people that had beef with the community. Robbie was mad because we benched him. We said, you can't do conferences anymore because we can't trust you because we have no idea what you're going to do. Patricia Steer had huge beef. Hell hath no fury like a Patricia scorned. The fact that she had the bad breakup with the guy out in England, Antonio Subirats, and the community wouldn't back her because those two were on par, the same level with content and what they were creating in the community. It's like, sorry, it's a he said, she said thing. You can't say kick Antonio out. And she was really upset about that. And I don't blame her. I backed her. And then Paul didn't have beef. Jaron, he was bitter mostly because he wasn't making the money he wanted to make. He was
all right, now,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, first, as we continue onward here, as I said, Will Duffy, he's been invited onto the show. He, more than welcome to come on. If he's listening, man, reach out. info@binnallofamerica.com or just find me on social media. And that also applies to some of these folks we're talking about tonight. Jaron, Robbie Davidson, Patricia Steer, Paul on the Plane. You want to come on Binnall of America, share your side of the story, you're more than welcome. This is a neutral ground here, okay? Right. So I just want, they have full open invitation to come on Binnall of America after this airs and give their side of the story. I'd be happy to talk to them. And have you, to that end, spoken to any of these people? They were your friends, right? Have you spoken to them after all this went down?
No. No, that's the part that is just blowing my mind, which was...
Have you reached out, though? Like, it, not necessarily, like, I know you're saying, like, they didn't contact. Have you just picked up the phone or whatever and called Patricia, or, like, reached out to Robbie or Jaron and been like, hey, let's talk about this, because this is...
No.
You know, I'm uneasy with what's going on with you.
Oh, no. I'm going the other way, which is, okay, you were the ones that initiated this. So I'm going to keep pushing buttons until you respond in one way or the other. And it's not me. There's other people that are getting in on this. Phone calls, yes, have been made, but not by me. And I've understood, I've gotten relayed from the other people what was going on. I'm sorry. Let's talk about a quick phone call that was made. From the Christian community launched into Robbie Davidson right away. Because remember, this is a religious side of things, and there were a lot of very unhappy Christians, because if it is biblical cosmology and the Bible is your backstop for your channel, then why'd you just abandon it entirely? That doesn't go over well with the church crowd. And so one of them, Kingdom and Context, Sean Griffin, contacted Robbie just recently. I mean, almost right after. So Robbie bailed on Saturday, and Sean was on him on Sunday. And there was an interesting line in that call, because he goes, "Hey, are you going to be part of the Will Duffy documentary? What I think that a lot of this is being set up for is the big documentary." And Robbie, just again, shouldn't be talking. He'd be his lawyer would just be slapping him around at this point, which would be like, well, Duffy and I are going to be talking tomorrow about the documentary, but I reserve the right to be in it. And it's like, okay, so why is Robbie Davidson tied to the documentary about Antarctica in any way, shape, or form? He has nothing to do with it. Right. And on top of that, Will Duffy is straight up denying in different posts that he says, like, oh, I'm not doing a documentary, and neither is MC2. And it's like, OK, well, you guys were shooting a lot of footage while you were down there. The cameras never stopped rolling. So where's the documentary coming from? And no one's talking. But again, if there is no documentary, why is Robbie Davidson saying, oh, yeah, I want to be in Will Duffy's documentary? So, no, long answer to your question. Reaching out for me, no. They're going to come to me. And the fact that they haven't yet blows my mind. Yeah, they're almost going out of their way not to defend themselves. Robbie, nowhere to be found. Patricia, vapor trail, just expensive tires squealing. You can hear them in the distance. Paul on the plane, we'll see. I heard that he's thinking about making a video. I don't know what he's going to do, though, because he's the weakest link of the bunch. And Jaron, I don't know what to do with Jaron, because again, Jaron and I weren't exactly friends out of all of them. He and I talked the least, but we had been in different roundtables. We had been in different things together. We'd done
colleagues, if you will.
Yeah, colleagues. Definitely colleagues. If Flat Earth was a comedy circuit, we definitely run into each other on the road. And so,
don't set me up with a joke like that, Paul.
I know.
Come on now.
I regret it.
Now. You can't do that.
As soon as I said it, I regret it.
Now, maybe you weren't particularly close with Jaron, but I want to get in your mind here a little bit. Do you feel a sense of betrayal from all this? Because, I mean, I certainly see it in the comments, like in Robbie's thing. And I see other kind of like did a little digging, and the people are really upset at these folks. And like, you were really good friends with some of them. Yeah. And friendly with the others. I mean, I pulled up your book. I don't have it in front of me, but the Flat Earth book, the one you had that you signed for me. And
where I talked about the Dallas
go through about all the different people, and you had wonderful things to say about a lot of these folks. I think you even said, like, if not for Robbie Davidson, the Flat Earth, like, he took it to another level with these conferences and everything.
He did.
And so it's so as I said, as sort of the face of Flat Earth contemporaneously. Do you feel a sense of like betrayal that these people have walked away from the movement and flipped and turned on the movement, not just walked away?
Only because it didn't happen. If it happened naturally, then I think it would have been fine with it. Again, we've gone 10 years and no content creators had jumped over. Again, I think that was a sticking point that whoever was going after us recently is going to use that. And they spend a lot of time and money to do it. Again, if you spend $300,000, by the way, on the Antarctic trip, how much couch money do you have to spend to buy out channels, basically cash for channels? Betrayal. I'm torn because look, I try to be objective when it comes to how the world works, right? We all know when it comes to paying off people. I mean, how many movies and television shows? It happens every hour, every day, in just about every aspect of our lives. You grease the palms, you grease the tracks, you grease the wheels. People get bribed. Everyone from jurors to judges, athletes, you name it. Their money talks. And the question then becomes, how loyal are the people that, and really, can I ask loyalty of them? It's like, look, if you have bills to pay or what's it worth? Can you put a price? Everybody's got a price. I'm more of a crusader, so my price is so high. I like to say I'm above it, but come on, if I was 30, no. If I was in my fireworks days back in my early 20s, oh my God, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Someone pushes a briefcase in front of you, of course I'd take it. Yeah. But not now. Not when I'm in my 50s. And it's like, no, nah. It's not. I've had my fun. A dump truck full of money is not going to do anything for me. So, and as far as pressure points, I don't really have those either, unless you can count, pain and death or something like that. But
can't always, yeah. So, all right, now. Let's say these folks, right? Let's say they don't appear in this let's say this documentary never happens, right? And they don't appear in it and they just fade away, right? Would that change your opinion on their 180 on the flat earth? If you see no beneficial end game for them to leave, which is what you're saying. They're
right. Well,
leaving this flat earth movement. So if you see no tangible beneficial developments for these folks, they just go away. They just get on with their lives. They just get into other topics or whatever. Yeah. And they don't seemingly benefit from leaving the flat earth. Would that change your take on things? I mean, that would take a couple years or whatever till we know.
Well, yeah, that's just it. The documentary, no, because in my opinion, what's happened was, because everybody involved has already gotten their money. The documentary will change the tone of everything. But if as you know, with documentaries, if you don't, you got to finish it. That takes some time, especially if you're working with people, on a time crunch, and editing takes a while. And then what are you going to do? I mean, if it all of a sudden shows up on Netflix one day, then yeah, I'm going to squint. It's like, how'd you get in there? Because even Behind the Curve had to go through film festivals before it was picked up by Netflix. Mm-hmm. If it goes through the film festival process, we'll hear about it. And plus, let's bottom line it. It's still got to be good. The problem with the documentaries, it's still got to resonate with the public. You've got to make something that actually, people be compelled to watch. Behind the Curve was actually a good watch. So can you do that with globalists and former flat earthers, in a movie and make it good? I'm not sure. But as far as the payoffs, let's break it down really quick. We'll start from lowest to highest. Paul in the plane, since he was a last minute entry and all he had to do was jump into chat rooms, he didn't even have to burn down content. Low money by comparison. I mean, good enough to where he was willing to take it. Robbie Davidson wasn't currently active, but he had 600 and something videos and ran a 24/7 channel and plus, celebratretruth.org. And he was all over the place. And the next thing you know, by the way, when it happened to everybody, they all did exactly the same thing. They started burning down content, deleting videos, and then posting the same stuff in social media, which is Antarctica proves the globe, flat earth is a cult, Jaron, blah, 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 the four of them especially, right? So Robbie Davidson would have made quite a bit just from burning down the channels. And which was interesting because I watched how he did it. Initially, he just made everything private. And if you know what happens there, if you make a video private, your metrics stay the same because it's just a private video. You can turn it off and on whenever you want. But apparently that wasn't good enough. They didn't want 20 million hits on his channel. So they said, burn it down. And next thing you know, he's got 3 million hits on his channel, which will never come back. He's never going to be able to rebuild those metrics. And Robbie Davidson never does anything for free, ever. Jaronism deleted 1,000 videos so far, 7 years worth of content. We're talking oh God, 5 digits worth of hours, just tons and stuff, burn it down, gone forever. And Patricia Steer killed her channel with the exception of the login. And it's like, why would they even leave the logins? I know why, because that way they go into chat rooms as their original avatars. And without it, you'd have to start a brand new channel and people would be like, who are you? You're not verified.
Right.
So what was the initial question?
The question was, if they don't show up in this documentary, now hypothetical. If there's no documentary and they just get on with their lives, will you change your opinion on their motivations? Because look, dude, I don't want to be confrontational or whatever, but you're throwing around a lot of fucking accusations here about these people getting paid off with absolutely no fucking proof that they've been paid off. Besides Patricia Steer buying a new fucking car. So let's dial it back. I don't want to fucking.
It's absolutely speculation, and but I love catering to the court of public opinion, which is like, look, if the dots connect, they connect. And in this case, these people did things. Look, if I didn't know them as well as I did, I couldn't make these sort of statements. I mean, I've known Paul for at least 8 years, Patricia for 9 years, Robbie for pushing 9 years, Jaron for 10, and they were all doing the exact same thing, all doing it completely out of character, but they were all in sync with each other. And they're all talking to each other apparently on a daily basis. And again, if Patricia's out, I'm leaving Flat Earth and ever, then why is she hanging out in Jaron's chat room? What? Because she's she's anti-Flat Earth now. So she's out of the community, but she's actively. When's the last time you saw somebody flip, and went completely the other way to where they're recruiting on that side? It's like, no, that's not how it works. You have a crisis of conscience. It's like, oh, I don't know what it all means. And then you disappear for a while and then you might come back. You just don't go, it's like, I'm walking this direction, flip. Nope. I am walking that direction at even greater speed. No.
Right. Well, I'll say this as a round earth believer, I don't, they don't get it. Even if, I'm personally, I don't necessarily jump on your conspiracy theory. I think they probably just kind of wanted to get out and they changed their minds, or they already changed their minds a while ago and wanted to get out. Right. But they don't get any flowers from me for fucking jumping. Because to me, I don't see a lot of humility in the fact that a lot of these folks, maybe not necessarily these guys, but the general tenor of Flat Earth is very strident. It's very like, we know it's flat. You guys are all fucking idiots. You're all dumb. You're all sheep. You're all, you all believe in a round earth. And then they flip 180 and it's like, now they're saying Flat Earth is a cult. It's like, bro, I can't take you seriously now, no matter what you fucking believe, because now you're a strident anti-Flat Earther. So it's like, come on, dude, show a little humility. If I fucking championed something for 10 years and I was wrong, I'd be like, oh, I'm a fucking idiot. Right. Like, I haven't seen a lot of I'm a fucking idiot from these people, but maybe I don't follow their stuff. So maybe they have gone that route.
Nope. You're absolutely right. And thank you for bringing that up, which is there was no soul searching and from anyone, 4 completely different people. And they all did the exact same thing. They spun around and then they went straight into the chat. I mean, watching Paul on the plane, who was not doing anything, mind you, right? Come out of retirement and immediately start posting Flat Earth is a cult in social media. It's like, what are you doing, man? Not only have I done local, I actually went and did international conferences with Paul. And we hung out and it's like, what are you doing, man? But then, again, I get it. Oh, I'm sorry. So is there a chance the documentary may not get made? I mean, there's a chance, but they are going to do their damnedest to try to do it. And Jaron will be the focal point. If it was me, if I was making the documentary, Jaron would be the focal point. Robbie Davidson, minor player. You focus on some of the trolls, MC Toon, McKeegan, who else is down there? Will Duffy, of course. We're still trying to figure out what the hell he's about because he's supposedly a pastor and I've never seen him quote chapter and verse even accidentally during any sort of debate. I mean, Rob Skiba and Robbie Davidson, all those guys, you can't help it. If you're a big Bible person, you're going to start quoting Bible stuff every once in a while. He never does. But as far as, again, to your question, would I let him off the hook if the documentary didn't get made?
Well, would you change your mind? Would you
Nope.
Okay.
No. Because I can see it. I can visualize the whole thing in my head. It's like, all right, and I can even tell you who the hierarchy was. It's like, look, they got to Patricia before Jaron. Somehow, I don't know how she did it. She convinced Jaron that Jaron was the one that flipped her. And it's like, at this point, I think Patricia was running point on this. And then she, because of the crypto connections, she knew exactly who she could go after. She went after Robbie and Paul. Wouldn't have surprised me if she posted that Mercedes pic, and then, because that solidifies that she's not kidding. It's like, hey, you want to get in on this action? Here's what you have to do. And they're like, and Robbie be like, hell, I don't care. It's like, I can't do another conference anyway, so why the hell not? And Paul's like, yeah, I need the bread. So he's in, and those were the only ones they got. That was the other thing. It's like, it's not like they got those people and a whole bunch of other people. Patricia got exactly those people, and those people happened to be part of this other group.
Okay, now you've
sorry, go ahead.
Said you repeatedly allude to they got Jaron, they got Patricia. Who is they?
Well, if I had to take a guess, you know what? Let's go. I'll go with the safe answer, and that is a scientific think tank, maybe tied to some sort of alphabet agency that didn't like us anymore. And after a decade, maybe there was an administration change, not because of the Trump thing, but maybe something happened last year to where they wanted to be more hands-on. They couldn't outgun us in information. We're just way too broad. We've been doing, after you do stuff for 10 years in social media, you're not getting rid of it. I mean, you can hit it with everything. You can counter it with anything you want. It's not going to work. So it's like, all right, you know what? Let's see if we can actually just disrupt the whole thing. Maybe we can, if we hit Jaron was the big target here. The other three were just supporting cast members. Jaron was important. You needed someone like Jaron, and only one person would do. That way you didn't have to worry about Austin. I mean, yeah, you could have gotten Austin or Jaron. Austin, if you know Austin Whitsitt, he wouldn't have been nearly as believable because he did street activism. He did tons and tons of debates. He's hardcore. He's no one would believe even if he did flip.
So the other two flat earthers on the trip did not flip.
Nope. No, in fact, one of them became my co-host, Lisbeth Acosta. Surprisingly, she with other people were working around, and she's like, no, she was part of another clubhouse group, and she was great. So, but the other people absolutely did not flip. And I felt bad for Austin Whitsitt because when he came back, he spent weeks doing damage control. Unfortunately, because if you heard anything, there was something he did when he was down there, and they call it Vape Gate. It kills me when people use the word gate and they don't even know where the original reference is from. And what had happened was he was vaping, I believe, off camera, or one of the cameras caught it, and he wasn't supposed to be vaping. I think it's a wife thing where it's like, don't you vape. If I see you vaping.
No, I thought it was like a legal thing. Like you can't.
No. It was just vaping.
Antarctica or something. Okay,
but it appeared,
Antarctica's no smoking, yeah?
No. But he appeared that he was lying about it. And at that point, it's like, okay, if the microscope's already on Jaron, if anybody else is lying, well, they've got to be lying about everything. And so At that point, Austin and Jaron are together. And then Austin, he's trying to recover from it. He goes into damage control mode. And I've never seen him do so many interviews and podcasts where it's like, look, I'm fine. You don't have to worry about me. And he even just recently, he's still giving Jaron the benefit of the doubt, which is fine. I get it. He wants most of the community is like giving the benefit of the doubt, but they haven't known him as long as I have. And so I'm not. Plus, again, sorry, you messed with my co-host, whoever they is, with my co-host. And so I'm not going to let it slide. I don't go from episode 500 to, my co-host is just vanishes with a single thing. It's like, oh no, I'm gone. That's it. No heartfelt anything, just gone. Worst breakup letter ever.
Yeah. Well, like I said, there is a sense. I get the sense of betrayal coming here. Maybe don't feel it too strongly, but it's
well, no. I mean, I do, but at the same time, it's tempered because look, I get it. They hit the people again. If you want to mess with somebody, be careful what you wish for. I've been complaining for years that our trolls sucked. Our trolls aren't good enough. The reaction channels aren't good enough. The globalists come after us, and now it's like, okay, we're just going to steal from World Wrestling, and it's like create a team, an anti-flat Earth team within the flat Earth. And just all of a sudden, with no segue, and which is what NWO did, right?
No, it was. It's kind of like I was thinking of that in a sense when you mentioned it, because like, yeah, that was part of the fun of the NWO. Was like you didn't know who was going to flip next. So
right,
I'm going to roll this episode out like in a week, and I have a feeling that maybe within the next 6 weeks or something, maybe one or two other people will flip, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's possible. I mean, and again, I even said during an interview recently, I said, I go, doing the NWO thing, that's tricky, because if you flip too many, like you were just saying, if all of a sudden, black shirts start showing up, it's like, okay, then it becomes really unbelievable. Meaning it's like, okay, so at that point, you even start pointing at the flat earth. It's like, okay, are you guys doing this as a stunt? Are you doing this just for ratings, to create false drama? And, they weren't serious. It's like, no, it's serious. This is like NWO, but real, if there was ever such a thing.
Right. Now, just to be clear, because I did, when I was following the Antarctic expedition, there were a lot of people who had some pretty zany ideas. Are you of the belief that this was an on-the-level trip actually to Antarctica, not filmed in a soundstage in Burbank?
I can absolutely no. I had no doubt in my mind. Well, no, I had no doubt in my mind that it was going to be real anyway, because years earlier I had done a thing in Los Angeles on the Salton Sea with National Geographic. And I talked to a National Geographic guy who's, he came off camera, right? And he's like, nothing was rolling, nothing was recording. He's so just, he goes, I've been down there. He goes, I've seen the 24-hour sun. And I'm like, oh, wow. Cool. And he had no reason to lie to me. There was nobody watching us, no producers, anything like that. And so when they went down the trip, and I watched all the footage, and look, denial is the most, common human response. Everybody knows that. And nobody wanted to believe it. There was lots of people that put too much stake in it, which I think was hypocritical, because like, okay, none of you got into flat earth because of the sun. So stop freaking out and saying, once the first stories came out, it's like, oh, it had to have been fake. And when, again, Lisbeth Acosta, my co-host, she was there, and she's like, no, look. And I talked to Austin after the fact, and he's like, no, everything was fine. Now I am 99% sure that it was absolutely legit. It wouldn't surprise me if somebody comes out and said, oh, there's this piece of land in Antarctica where they stage stuff. It's like, yeah, I suppose. But at the same time, it's like, I believe, okay. I believe it was real. Yes.
Do you think, because like I said, I'm not necessarily on board with your conspiracy. My idea here is pretty much that like, and I'm sure you'll disagree, that it feels to me like the flat earth is kind of like down. It hit its peak, maybe even before Dallas, and it's kind of been petering out since then. And I feel like a lot of people maybe who were in it just kind of were like done. Like you said, a lot of these people fucking were barely active in the community anymore, except for Patricia, who came back. So, I mean...
I would disagree in that 2019 was a banner. Are you kidding? 2019 was a killer year for us. We could do no wrong. There was nothing stopping us in 2019. Remember, they had already changed the metrics in YouTube to adjust for us. There was already the Senate hearing. They were changing the rules. They tore down the scoreboard in 2018 to adjust for us in YouTube. They were doing all sorts they were making moves I've never seen them do with any other truther community topic ever. And when we got to the beginning of 2020, because like 2019, I think I did conferences in 7 countries. It was crazy, just different things. It was nuts. Got to the beginning of 2020, and I remember I'd already done like 3 trips at the end of 2019 to international stuff. And I was coming back from London, and somebody called me and said, oh yeah, by the way, McDonald's wants to do a commercial with you over in London. Come back over. And it's like, oh man. So I get ready to come back over. And then they said, oh yeah, by the way, the border's closed because of some virus thing. And it's like, crap. So what really slowed us down was, well, at least slowed us down in one sense, was the pandemic. Pandemic, we couldn't do international conferences. We couldn't even do regional conferences. I mean, if it wasn't for Karen B, we wouldn't have done conferences at all. Meetups were shut down at least for 2 years. And then But behind the scenes, there were people that were, because you were home more often, right? People were, on Netflix a whole bunch more, and they were on the internet a whole bunch more. So there were a lot more people getting into not just our stuff, but the truther community at large, just about every conspiracy you could think of. So we were picking up people then, but they weren't getting together. So once that whole thing finally wrapped up and we started ramping up again, it's like, oh, I'm doing Strange Worlds, cranking up meetups, conferences are scheduled and ready to go. And I mean, were there people that were trying to get out? Not the way people in Flat Earth don't get out the way that other people get out. They don't leave, not to quote a movie, but it's like, you don't leave the agency, JFK. Which is, Robbie.
Yeah, I would just assume they moved on to other conspiracy theories.
Well, they didn't move on to other conspiracy. They just moved on to some did. Yes, you're absolutely right. Some people, it's like they get into, because Flat Earth is that gateway drug, right?
Right, like QAnon or anti-vax and stuff like that.
Let's go into melted bricks. Let's go into Tartaria. Let's go into whatever, which is fine. That's absolutely fine. Robbie at no point shut down his channel. He was still running 24/7 live, his 24/7 YouTube channel. He had to step away though, because there was bad blood between he and the conference speakers, the whole touring, the speaking groups. Paul just had to, every once in a while you run into someone, it's like, I got to work on my family, my marriage, whatever. And they just go away. That happens all the time. And Patricia's case, she wouldn't have left. She wouldn't have left except for the breakup thing. And even after she left, I mean, they fired up that thing in the beginning of 2021, the crypto thing. So they were still doing things as a Flat Earth team. All three of them were Flat Earth members. There was nobody non-Flat Earth in that circle. So no, for me, Flat Earth has never, gone away, especially with social media. I mean, it's out there doing its stuff. To that point though, what you just said, we did lose some momentum when we lost people, which was, we lost Rob Skiba to a ventilator issue. We lost Bob Nodell to cancer. We lost Mac to something suddenly in his bathroom, which was weird. Personally, I think he was probably targeted because, he was a Canadian pain in the ass. He wouldn't have made the United States top 100, but in Canada, he was a pain in the ass.
Yeah, he was he was quite the newsmaker.
Yeah, they did not like him up there. And then we lost Zulu, one of my restreamers. That was sad because he actually died on stream, which was awful.
He died on stream. What happened? Yeah. Was he live? Yeah, was he like you and I are talking right now?
Yeah, you and I are talking, and he was drumming, doing his stuff. He turns off his camera for 1 second, and he's up in the corner of his thing, and we didn't think anything of it because he was he was either coming on phone calls or he wasn't part of the main block. And we get to the end of the show, and one of our guys who was in the background, he's I just saw a thing in dispatch that Zulu's been taken to the hospital. He's unresponsive. And that was it. I mean, he was, again, it was a sad thing, but I'm going to give him lucky son of a bitch. He died doing what he loved. He was, doing a Flat Earth stream, and he was like sitting there, and he just slumped over in his chair, and that was it. He was out. And I know it was awful, but we lost him. So, and to that point, sorry, one more thing I want to throw out there.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people to discount this. I think that left open opportunities, especially Rob Skiba and Bob Nodell. I think that left opportunities for whoever they are. Again, you guys can think of whoever they are. I don't really care if it's a small science group or it's a big agency. I don't really care. It's somebody. Which was, would the Jaron thing would happened if Bob Nodell was around? No, Bob Nodell was the rock. He was the passion and the fuel and the conviction. He would have, he was always, it was the back and forth between Jaron and Bob. That's how the whole Globebusters thing started. And if Bob was still around, one, I don't even know if Jaron would have gone to Antarctica, but even if he did, Bob would have gone with him, but that would have worked itself out. It would not. Jaron, I think, was in a much more vulnerable position because Bob wasn't there. Bob's the type of guy that would have thrown the money back in your face and said, "Get out of my house." And then Rob Skiba, people have asked me many times, it's like, what would Rob Skiba do after watching Robbie Davidson? I don't know, because Rob Skiba was above Robbie Davidson in the food chain. And I don't know if if of course they couldn't have approached Rob either, but would have Rob talked to Robbie before he did his whole thing, or he would have contacted him immediately, and the peer pressure there, I don't know if Robbie would have done it. I just don't.
Yeah.
So
has, at the risk of being too probing, has Bob's widow, Cammie, who was deeply involved in the Flat Earth too, from what I can recall, right? Yes. Has she had anything to say about all these latest developments?
That's a good question. Cammie Nodell.
Right. I thought I got it right there.
I'm sure she's not thrilled. I have not seen a post from her personally. That's a good question. I haven't even looked. I've been so busy with everybody else, I didn't even think about Cammie. If I get a chance, I'll ask her. I'm pretty sure I know what the answer is, which is like one shock. It's like, what the hell is he thinking? Because Cammie knows Jaron as well as anyone. It would not surprise me though if Cammie had an opinion. I'll see if I can dig that up for you.
Well, I would sure she would have an opinion. I mean, that's what I was wondering.
But I'm pretty sure it would be confusion followed like everybody else. Everybody initially thought it's like, okay, Jaron's lost his mind. But it's like when he pivoted to space and started again, the one guy, no one has made more anti-NASA videos than Jaron. And to him immediately say, oh no, NASA's absolutely legit. Just over in the course of a week, I'm going, okay, all right, fine.
Yeah.
Covering SpaceX. Oh my God. I couldn't even begin to count the amount of SpaceX videos that he just shredded. Just freaking shredded. And then next thing you know, he's covering, look at this SpaceX rocket going off in the distance. Yep, it's going over the curve. Yep, it's curved, proves the globe. It's like, what am I seeing?
Yeah.
So anyway.
Now, beyond sort of a sense of betrayal, do you have a feeling of sort of like loneliness, dude? You're like one of the few big names left now in this field that I'm aware of that go beyond the Flat Earth community. I'm sure there's people in the Flat Earth world who have audiences and all that, and they're pretty popular and everything. But like, I'm looking back on that weekend in Dallas, and it's like you take out Bob Nodal, Jaron, Robbie Davidson. Patricia Steer wasn't there, but she was a big player in all this.
No, it's good.
This Paul and the Plane guy, even Mac Parhar, he was running around. Remember, he had that thing. He had like a broken nose. Yeah. Remember that? Yeah. He had like a tissue with like a bloody fucking tissue up his nose the whole weekend. He was a character. I loved that guy.
He was. Yeah, he was a handful. Out of the OG people, there's still some. If you want to go back time lapse wise, Eric Dubay, of course, he's the Andy Warhol of Flat Earth, and no one's ever going to figure him out. But he's still doing it. We did a roundtable meeting because of this, right? Eventually it's like, circle the wagons, everybody sound off. Who's cool and who's not? It's kind of like The Thing, that movie. It's like, okay, who's human? Who's not human?
Right.
Because we needed to know. It's like, okay, is everybody good? Do we have anything to worry about here? But during that roundtable, everybody was cool. But yes, out of, for example, if you were going to target people, if just looking at, Behind the Curve, Bob Nodell passed away. Mm-hmm. Patricia, other side. Jaron, other side. That's 3 right there. Chris Pontius, of course, he's cool. He's the model maker. Me, and then Nathan Thompson, who's also cool. So out of the 6, 3 of them aren't part of the community anymore. 1 because it passed away, and the other 2 because they flipped. So yeah, it not necessarily. Any sort of loneliness. No, the community's all over the place. We've got fantastic people in different stages, but as far as the originals going back, it kind of feels like, because I'm older, kind of like a class reunion thing where it's, you go to the class reunion. It's like, oh, really? He's not here with us anymore? That sort. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm not necessarily discouraged because I understand it. I understand that. Again, it was the running joke behind the scenes that we never talked about on air, which was, okay, what happened? Because we always throw out the shill thing. It's like, okay, who's going to turn and who's the most likely to turn when it gets to that point? So you've played the game with everybody else, right? Yeah, it's like, what would you do for $1 million? Would you sell out this and sell? And always at the top of the list were Robbie and Jaron. Always. That's not a slight on Jaron. It's like, look, he's always doing a side hustle. So when those two became the first guys that, officially flipped in a very short amount of time, it's like, okay, that's fine. Takes the heat off of me because I was accused of, like when I did that commercial in Australia, people was like, oh my God, confirmed shill. He did an endorsement. And it's like, no, it was a flat earther. There was a vice president of that company, and they happened to call me up and bring me down for it. But, I couldn't shake that for a while. And in hindsight, had I done that McDonald's commercial, oh my God, everything for a reason. I think I would have gotten just slammed for it because, it's like McDonald's evil corporation. It's like, come on, they were paying good money. So why wouldn't I have done it?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, at the risk of injecting any additional paranoia that you might already possess, I'm certain that, if there's anyone on the cusp, it's like the old NWO, dude, you're right. If there's anyone on the cusp of flipping or still considering it or whatever, I'm sure there could be snakes in your midst is the point I'm trying to make. And I'm sure, there could be people that are thinking about flipping and are kind of right now, maybe even talking to you, not me, of course, because I'm on solid round earth. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And that's not paranoia. I mean, look, I'm not stupid, and it's actually prudent to bring that up, which is there a chance that somebody else is out there that all of a sudden we're going to see? There's a chance. I think there's a timeline involved, which means if you're really trying to get this documentary underway, you can't wait too long, which is why people are saying, well, is Austin flipped? It's like, well, if he hasn't flipped by now, he's probably not going to because there's no time. However, at this point, what we're doing is we're just watching. But now that we see the pattern, because the pattern is exactly the same with everybody, it's like, okay, they start burning down their channel. They start posting things they never would post. Everyone says the same, new evidence. If I have to see that one more time, I'm going to go nuts. I've received new evidence and flat earth is a cult. It's like, okay, so apparently you guys are reading from a script. And
what is this new evidence anyway?
Well, that's just it. Like Robbie Davidson, when he posted that, and people were like, what new evidence? He couldn't even answer. He had to go back to whoever it was. It's like, because of the Antarctic thing. The problem with using Antarctica is the average person doesn't even know how to explain it. It's like, what, you don't even know what it means because nobody gets into it, because most of the people get into flat earth get in because of long distance photography. So the Antarctic thing was really tricky. But why would everyone keep saying, oh, new evidence presented? It's like new evidence. It's like, why would you do that? And again, the cult thing, to go the other way and say, not only am I not flat earth, I hate flat earth. Flat earth should die. It's like, what? It's like, even your best, like, I'll use a quick reference. Full well, there's programs out there where if you have to, like you grab somebody from an actual cult and you want to deprogram them, you take them to these places, like a high-end rehab place, and you're in there for like a month at least, right? You're not going anywhere. And, you're starving, you're on drugs and all this stuff. It takes a month just to get you out of there so that when they release you, you just don't run right back.
Right.
But that didn't happen here. So it's like all of a sudden people were instantly deprogrammed. It's like 10 years of flat earth. Great. I just forgot it overnight. So you talk about it. If any of the average person tried to do, they'd have a brain hemorrhage. So no, but yes. So we're watching people to see if anybody flips, but we're looking for the pattern. It's like if I see anybody show up, it's like, oh, flat earth's a cult. If they pull away, we see the how it's going to happen. Apparently, they're not being allowed to do different things. So it'll be easy to spot. So, right. I will say this, you know what? There's a silver lining here. One is people love drama, and people are just drawn to drama, as you know. I mean, soap operas exist for a reason. They've existed for a long time.
Shit, man. That's why I wrote to you right away to get you on the show.
I know.
I love all this fucking drama. Are you kidding me?
Drama.
Fuck. That's why I extended the invitation to all these folks we're talking about. Let's come on neutral ground and they can air their take on this. Let me ask you this, though. And I have a feeling I know the answer to this question, but these people, your friends, your colleagues, they're dropping out, they're flipping. Has any of this given you even a moment of like pause to think maybe I'm wrong? Maybe the earth isn't flat. Maybe they're right. Maybe this thing is round, and maybe this, that I've just made a big mistake. Have you taken a moment to think,
No, not a single instant, because because I've been doing this so long and I've covered, you got to remember, before I even made the clues back in 2015, I had to answer all the questions to myself, the best I could, which is like, okay, I'm only going to make these videos because I can't answer these sort of questions on my own. I'm going to let the internet answer them. So and again, with the Antarctic sun, they were telegraphing it 9 months in advance, which was, the Antarctic sun, they call it the final experiment. It's like, what are you talking about? The Antarctic sun doesn't prove anything when it comes to the ground. It might prove something that goes with the sun, but that's all it does. So at that point, I was like, I don't care. It was the reason why I turned down the trip. It's like, you don't want me on this trip. I'm going to be, if you guys are actually making a documentary, you don't want me in it, because I'm just going to downplay it and be like, it means nothing to me. So when this happened, along these people, because they kept quoting the same freaking thing, except for Jaron, it's like, space rockets are good. Everybody said, Antarctica. And these are 4 people. Look, no offense to Patricia, but she couldn't explain the Antarctic trip if she wanted to. Although remember, I underestimated her, and who knows what she.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I was saying before about people, people in your midst. If she was hosting that show with you, and then dropped out the next day, you kind of said this too. It's like, then that would stand to reason that she was playing you, unless she changed her mind after the show, when she sent you the message. Otherwise, she was playing you live on the air on that show.
Well, not just that. Yeah, you're absolutely playing me. And again, kudos because I didn't see it, and kudos because she was doing it for a long time. Mm-hmm. Her performance was brilliant. I mean, 9 months of that stuff. And again, I couldn't even see it until afterwards. At some point, there was somebody that mentioned to me, it's like, because once they started looking at how far Patricia might have been, it's like, is she Kaiser Soze? Is she actually like really deep into this? It's like, I don't know. But it was flawless because at no point did anyone email me and say, I don't know, Patricia's looking really suspicious. So it's like, it was great. I mean, it was something to watch after the fact. So... But sorry, real quick. The drama is going to suck people in, which is fantastic. That's a great silver lining for us. But the other thing it did was it catalyzed the community. I'm talking to people. I've made more phone calls in the last 2 weeks than I have in a long time. And the roundtable, I'm talking to people I don't usually talk to in years, because everyone, it's the drama. It's like, okay, who's doing this? Who's doing this? Intrigue, betrayal. What foreshadowing? Weird, dark, mysterious things, and of course the suspicion. I like to quote one of the greatest Twilight Zone episodes of all time, The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, which was, the aliens figured out a way. All you had to do was make some suspicious things happen in very particular houses, and everyone would be suspicious of that person. And then they had the entire neighborhood turning on each other within 30 minutes. It was amazing. We haven't gotten to that point yet. But I will say, and we're not even supposed to say Jaron's name anymore. I'm supposed to say Jay, by the way, which is
according to who?
Just people. He's turned into, if you remember the whole Red Auerbach thing from back in the day, he who shall not be named, which is Jay. And so.
Well, I don't want to come off the wrong way, but when people say you guys are a cult, this is the kind of shit they talk. This is what they're talking about.
Hey, look, I embrace. No. I go the other way. I've gone the other way for a number of years, which is like, look, I understand the cult label. I mean, yes, we don't have a compound or a Bible or robes or chanting. Well, not much chanting, but at the same time, we're not. I'm not David Koresh, right? There's only been like 3 or 4 major cults in America of note. But at the same time, do we do leaps of faith? Is it us versus them? Big belief system involved? Sure. And to where, I mean, come on, I've been called a cult leader enough times to where I show up on Google searches on who is the leader of Earth. I just show up in images. It's like, okay, sure, why not?
Oh shit! Well, I hope the aliens don't Google you like that.
There you go. Right? Somebody actually did that. It was the weirdest thing. He goes, because I said, I did a slide in a presentation that said, "Take me to your leader." That old alien trope.
Yeah.
And somebody just happened to be like, "Hey, what if I Googled that? Who is the leader of Earth?" And they click on images, and it's me and Putin and Doctor Who. It is so weird.
Jesus.
It's like,
Quite a
okay,
trio.
sure. But no, I mean, no, I understand the cult sticker. You guys want to throw cult, that term does not bother me. What else are you going to call it? It's a belief system, alternative thinking.
Right. I just mean when you say like, oh, I'm not supposed to call him by his name. That kind of thing is like, all right. But I mean, that kind of shit is in every community.
That's more of a dig, which is like, okay, you're going to play that. Let's have some fun with this. I think what they were hoping is let's not give him the metrics by calling his name, because every time you say it, but anyway, he called out the one of our people recently. I'm not going to say who it is. And I was worried that because Will Duffy, by the way, was batting 1,000, right? When if he says your name on air, he's already got you. And it's like, okay. And so Jaron said somebody, and it's like, well, we don't have confirmation. I'm firing off, and it's like, all right. So maybe they're getting to that point where if they made calling off names. Now, let's say he calls out my name. Oh, I got Mark Sargent, right? Well, there's no way, of course, no one would believe it. But at the same time, you're still going to get some people that'll look, it's like, I'll get emails if he says that. People will say, Mark, has something happened? Which is why I have to preface people. It's like, look, no, nobody's approached me. Nobody's going to approach me because it's silly. And I've already stated nothing's going to happen. You can't bribe me. You can't coerce me. So what are you going to do? Go find somebody else. And I think that's that way with a lot of people. So, but yes, I'm waiting. And if somebody shows up, I'll definitely let you know. I'll shoot you a thing. It's like, oh, by the way. So,
Right. Well, it's like you said before, like if somebody approaches someone and they turn the deal down, then it's like, well, they've blown their own fucking deal because they're trying to spy you off. Like, and you would go on YouTube like the next day and be like, oh, here's
and which happened. Is why, you tell them again, you throw them the carrot, and if it's not the carrot, it's the stick, no matter what. So it's a tough call. Even if you say no. So what we're also looking for is people that look scared. So like, because if you got that, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, you can't tell anybody that, but that would change the person anyway, because then it's like, holy crap, this. Am I being watched right now? Are there cameras? They start ripping stuff apart in their house looking for microphones. So
now you've mentioned the 10 years multiple times now, and it's kind of like, okay, this goes to like the fundamental problem, in my view, of the flat earth, which is like, what have you guys done? Here I am. I'm a skeptic, all right, of the flat earth, right? And a friend. I consider you a friend, Mark. I think you're a good guy.
Sure.
You guys, you've had 10 years.
Yeah.
Where we like to say on the show when these people talk about the aliens and how they're going to, my catchphrase here on the show is, show me the fucking alien, right? I don't want to hear any more stories about lights or this guy told me that, or I was told by this, or I saw this in the army. Show me the fucking aliens. Okay. You've had 10 years. Yeah. How have you not? It seems like it should be a rather simple thing to prove. How have you not proven that the earth is flat?
Well, it's as fair as that question seems. We've had 10 years, but the people that have been setting up the globe illusion, hell, just the space program alone, that's been 1958 to 1959. No, yeah. 1958. Sorry, 58. Till now, that's quite a few decades. The powers that be have had a massive head start over us, and I think we've done pretty well. We've covered just about every angle you could think of on the ground when it comes, long distance photography and some physics experiments, laser experiments, mirror experiments, you name it. We've tried to do it on the ground, and for the most part, we've been happy with the results. If we didn't, we wouldn't even be talking, because I wouldn't even be doing this anymore. But there has been resistance, a severe resistance. The old saying, you only get flack when you're over the target. When, like in 2018, a great example, when our metrics, we were resonating with a lot of people. Our metrics, as far as search results in YouTube, we were actually crushing it. We passed President Trump in the summer of 2018, and then they tore down the scoreboard for whatever reason. Well, that isn't going to help. Okay, we're going to demonetize your channels. Okay, we're going to create a wiki sticker. The first wiki sticker is going to go to Flat Earth. And now
I know I'm going to get one of those on my YouTube when I post.
Yeah, of course. And it doesn't matter, by the way. They used to do it even if you're a globalist channel saying Flat Earth sucks. You could make a video called Flat Earth sucks, and it does not matter anymore. The wiki sticker is going on it because they're not even going to spend the time. Watching it to see if it's pro or con. It's like, we're just gonna put a sticker. If Flat Earth is anywhere in there, it gets a sticker. And then after that, I mean, the moves they made just kept getting worse and worse. I mean, come on, the demonetization alone was bad. I remember when Rob Skiba calls me up and he goes, have you been making less money recently? And I go, yeah. He goes, yeah, I'm down like 75% over a month. He goes, what the hell happened? And I go, let me tell you what happened. And I showed him some of the government links and all. Again, we were lumped into 3 topics, which was false flags, medical misinformation, and flat Earth. Those are the first 3. So, no, we've been doing great. Are you kidding? We're going up against a juggernaut of a machine, and I still think we're doing. I mean, every platform that comes on. Love the fact that we made this big resurgence when TikTok took over, because as you know, the kids can't create original content, so they just rip stuff from YouTube and flat Earth in YouTube. Just about every major channel in YouTube has done a flat Earth video once or twice. Now, granted, a lot of them have been trolls, but they still make them.
Yeah, well, it's a fun topic to explore, even if you don't believe in it.
And
that's why I had you on the show a couple times. Yeah,
thank you, and I appreciate that. And it's safe. It's safe compared to the other ones, right? So many other conspiracies are dark and brooding and talk about the government and Batman. And but flat Earth, it's got that lighthearted, it's got this message of hope that I love so much. The community. There's a reason why there's so many women. I was always surprised at how many women show up at the conferences. And I ask them, it's like, why are you here exactly? You just don't seem the type. And they say, oh, because flat Earth has got a fun thing to it, a fun aspect. They like the whole, positivity, and flat Earth opens up things to, opens up ideas for other places. So now 10 years. I mean, it went by so fast, and look at all the content that's been done since then. Tons and tons of content. I don't know how many conferences. I don't know how many meetups.
But no smoking gun that proves the Earth is flat.
Well, we think we have smoking guns, but it has to be acknowledged by the mainstream science. I mean, long distance. If most people get into flat Earth because of long distance photography, you'd think that they would acknowledge it to some degree, but they don't. They just they blow it off and say, a great example would be a video on my channel. I call it Why This Video is So Important, but it's the Black Swan video. I don't know if you've ever seen it, which was taken off of Santa Barbara and shooting oil rigs, one at 6 miles and one at 10 miles, straight from the beach. And, real time video, everything's high def. And there's no curvature at all. And not only that, but the horizon is way behind the second one. And the camera is right off the beach, maybe 6-7 feet high. The question, and I've thrown this at different science people, they will not touch it. Again, once we get to a story, we think we have the smoking guns, but it's almost like whoever we're giving it to just glitches out. I've shown that black swan thing to people all the time. I had a guy come back to me and said, no, the horizon isn't either front or behind it. It's invisible. What you're looking at and what you're seeing isn't true. It isn't real at all. It's a giant mirage. I'm going, you're talking about it doesn't look like a mirage. It's only 6 miles away. It's in the evening. There's no heat waves or anything, but they won't touch it. Or the question that I throw at people all the time, the challenge that I never had accepted, which was the spacesuit test. It's like, look, what happens, for example, when our atmosphere runs into the vacuum of space? Tell me what happens at that point. Nobody wants to talk about it. I go, okay, fine. Put me in a spacesuit, put me in a vacuum chamber, pull the switch. Tell me what happens. Because anything in a vacuum chamber expands and then, gets really tight and then explodes. Can of soda, football, basketball.
I think I don't know the answer to that question, but my best guess would be that it's slow. It's a slow process as as the atmosphere gets thinner and thinner and thinner until you're in the vacuum. That's how it.
Sure.
So you acclimate into it. That's, I
well,
don't know.
that has been thrown at me. And then I give them the Amazon box analogy. I go, look, it's a vacuum. This isn't like the movies where you punch a hole in the side of your spacecraft and you hear the air rushing. It's like, we only got 3 minutes of air. Get the duct tape. No. It's brutal. It's so incredible.
It's like that sub that blew up in the ocean.
Yes. Oh yeah. The undersea. I mean, you don't even have to go to space.
Instantaneous.
It's amazingly fast. But
what I'm saying is, you can. I mean, look at the sub that went down into the thing, and then it just it implodes. It's
horrible.
Because it was made of like fucking Legos, but that's a different thing. But that's my point being is if you go slowly up, not slowly, but if you go progressively through. But let's get off of this because I don't want
to. Let me bring that up real quick. Which is, so what happened? So I use the box analogy, which is okay. What happens is you take an empty Amazon box, you put some packing popcorn in, you pick it up. A little bit of tape on the bottom. Nothing. Fine. Packing popcorn's fine. Fine. Put the box back down, put a bunch of books on top of that packing popcorn and pick that box back up. The books are just going to punch through that thing and take the packing popcorn with it. At the edge of space, the vacuum does not care if it's a little bit or if it's a lot. It's going after all of it. It's going to grab the little stuff first. In fact, what it's going to do is going to grab the heavy stuff behind it and rip it right through and scramble the oceans and everything else. And it's going to tear the atmosphere to shreds. And nobody wants to even address it. Again, why do they call it a greenhouse gases? It would make sense if it's more of an actual greenhouse with a barrier or the air pressure. Where do you get air pressure from if there isn't an actual structure? Again, pressure cannot exist next to non-pressure without some sort of barrier. No one wants to touch it. So sorry. In our minds, which is why we keep doing what we're doing, which is why the community keeps picking up people, which is like, look, we think we've got the smoking guns. They just won't get acknowledged by mainstream science.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. That's cool. Let me see here. So this is an interesting question somebody asked me to pose to you. Where do you get your news from, Mark? What are your news sources?
Oh my God. Every day, unfortunately, I have to go through in this order. Ready? CNN. And I don't vote, by the way, so I don't care about blue team, red team. In fact, I'm not allowed to vote, but that's a whole other thing.
Well, hold on now. You can't drop that and say, why are you not allowed to vote?
I'm a federal criminal.
Oh no. What happened?
Yeah. I made, you know what? That's funny. I didn't even think. You don't know that part of my backstory. I made illegal fireworks in college because I live in a state with a whole bunch of Native American reservations, otherwise known as casino American reservations. Mm-hmm. And they pay well for illegal fireworks, and they will buy everything you have. And I was good at chemistry, so I made fireworks for these guys. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah, this is great.
How I got caught. So I made them on campus. Great operation. It was called the Brimstone Project. I was very proud of it, considering I was 19, 20 and 21. And I had 30 people working for me on campus in different parts of the campus. I wrote a screenplay about this. It was a fun thing. It was a great summer and how we set up. So what I would do is I would set up these assembly line places in different parts of the campus. So I'd give part of the track team, I'd give them hot glue guns, and I'd have them hot glue, end caps for like M1000s, M80, yeah. M100s, that crap. But there's no powder. I always did the powder. I'd give a set of girls some scissors and a mile of fuse. I'd say, I need 4-inch pieces. Start cutting. And I would pay 3 times minimum wage. But you couldn't collect, no taxes. That's not smart. But of course it was illegal. It's
like a whole illegal operation, right?
Oh yeah, it was huge, and it was fantastic. And I ran myself ragged getting this. And then when it was all done, I took it down to the reservation. I made way too many 6-inchers. I flooded the market. I sold all my small stuff immediately, but I made way too many 6-inchers because I would sell it to them for like $6-7, and they'd sell them for 20. Their markup was ridiculous, and I could make them for $1. So, but the thing was, if you can make a little one, I can make a big one as fast as I can make a little one. So you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to make big ones. Didn't even occur to me. It's like, oh, well, they can't sell those as fast. So I flooded the market. They should have probably lowered the prices, and it doesn't really matter. So it was really fun. And it was going well, except there was a girl, let's call her Lori. Mm-hmm. And Lori wanted to work for me for that summer. And she had already planned out. She's like, well, I'll be able to work this many hours a day. Very meticulous, this Lori. Also pretty, kind of blonde.
Uh-oh, she's a fed, isn't she?
Nope. Oh, okay. Nope, but you might as well, right. Man. No, you're close. You're close. Because my girlfriend eventually, and my girlfriend sized her up. And the only reason I even got to do this is my girlfriend was part Native American. So she could walk into a reservation and she looked it. And, she'd be like, oh, yeah, my people.
Yeah, she could vouch for you. Yeah,
because I apparently look like a cop. So
you do kind of look like a cop.
Yeah. I hear that. I had Stefan, the guitarist from the Deftones. I asked him the other day on camera. I go, yeah, and Karen. I go, so what do you think? He goes, man, you give off some cop vibes. I got to tell you, that's great.
You do give off cop vibes. All right, so
and ironic. So
okay, so let's get back to this story. I'm loving it.
Girlfriend says, hey, you can't hire her. She can't work for us anymore. She's pretty. She's a blonde. You know how that works out. It's like, nah, I'm not doing that. She goes, I'm not competing against this. You get rid of her. And I said, really? You want me to like get rid of her? It's like, no, you idiot. it's like, just fire her. I was like, okay.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
No, it's like I'm 20. I haven't killed anyone yet. It's like, come on. So that comes later. So anyway,
that's when there's an accident at the firework factory.
Right, exactly. It's something blew. Oh, that actually happened. But not with us, with one of my competitors. But we'll get to that. So anyway, I go over there and I said, "Hey, Lori, hate to do this to you, but girlfriend can't work for me." And it was like a switch turned off in her head. She's like, "Oh no." She goes, I'm working for you this summer." Right? And I'm going, what are you talking about? She says, no. I was expecting to work a certain number of hours. If you don't hire me for the summer, I'm going to rat you out. And she literally said, I'm going to drop the dime on you. It's like, who says that? Nobody says that anymore. It's like, nobody even understands that anymore. It's like, well, phone booths, dime, whatever.
Right.
So
this is back when they had phone.
This was the first and only time that I ever took a woman for granted, which was like, okay, yeah, like, you sure you are, right? She's 20, right? Yeah. You know what she does? Very next day, she calls the freaking FBI. It's like, are you high? It's like, do you understand the reasoning behind this? It's like, okay, first off, I didn't owe you any money. You hadn't even worked yet. And you're complaining about not working for an illegal fireworks operation, right? Yeah. It's an illegal operation. You're going to do this. It's like, if I can't, basically her logic was, if I can't work for this, you can't either. So she that's
a pretty gutsy move on her part, because like, I'm sure a lot of people were super pissed when this thing went under. So, okay, so go on.
Yeah. Well, actually, by the time we got around to it, I had actually finished the season because she called up the FBI. The FBI just ignored her. And, it's a 20-year-old girl. It's like, I think some guy's making illegal fireworks, and of course they don't know the scope of it. It's like,
and they're not going to send someone over like the next day to arrest you. No, they have to investigate. Federal Bureau of Investigation. They have to investigate it first before they can come after you. Go on.
They just hung up on her. Basically, they said, fine, whatever. We'll write his name down. Didn't write his name down. And I knew this because I talked to the feds later. Well, right. So 2 weeks later, she sees me walking around campus. She calls him back.
Oh my God, like, dude!
Hey, jackasses! What's he still? I called you, and my God, and so here's what happened was, because I ended up talking to the feds later, and it was kind of a guy's thing. It was kind of fun by the time we got to the end of it, where I asked him. I go, I was in their office downtown Seattle. I go, how did you get me? And all the guys in the office like, dude, this girl called up. I don't know what you did to her, but man, she was persistent. She was not having any of it. So what happened then was they just on a tip, they were following a chemical company in Colorado, and they went down to Colorado to check some stuff out. And as they were leaving, one of the guys, straight up like a Columbo episode, it's like, hey, do you happen to know a guy named Mark Sargent? It's like, do we? We got like 1,200 pounds of stuff that's going up to Seattle. It's like, okay, we're going to be taking this and going. And they didn't know the scope until that point. And then they came up and they nailed me. And I was young and it was dumb, but because of that, I can't vote. I can't be on jury duty, all this stuff, permanent record type stuff.
Yeah. Did you go to prison?
The what?
Did you go to prison?
No. Your first offense for fireworks is a slap on the wrist. It's, metaphorically speaking. I mean, it's not that bad at all. Still got to go to court and you got to plead out and stuff like that. But it wasn't, again, do I regret it? Yes. But I knew the penalties going in. I looked up the law statutes before all this happened. It's like, well, as long as nobody dies, I should be pretty good. Even worst case scenario. It wasn't super fun. I wasn't allowed to. I'm still a little surprised that they allowed me to fly. However, this was pre 9/11. So if it was post 9/11, it'd be a whole different ballgame, I think.
Yeah, you could have gotten in a lot of serious trouble. Yeah.
That could have been bad. But there was a funny moment. I got to tell you this one. So Lori, I didn't know for the longest time that it was her, right? The whole thing happened, and we actually made it through the season. I paid off everyone I could. And the extra inventory, of course, the government confiscated, made a big splashy thing about it.
Yeah.
And then I remember I was down like right afterwards, like they didn't even haul me in. They're like, well, don't leave the country, even though I was like 20 miles from Canada. And they don't leave the country. What would I do anyway? And so it's like, all right. So like, I think like 2 days later, I actually went to Lori's house, because we had actually dated a little bit, when the girlfriend thing.
So your girlfriend was right.
Well, yeah, I was. yeah. I mean, I wasn't cheating on her with Lori. My girlfriend thing was on and off, but yes, Lori was pretty, and so I went to her house. And I remember her opening the door, and she had this look of horror on her face, right? And I was like, going, "What the hell's wrong with you?" And she goes, and she goes, "Why are you here?" And I go, I'm feeling down. This whole firework thing didn't pan out. I'm sitting in her couch, and I'm like, going, "Oh man, I don't know what to do at this point. It's not, and she is staring at me like I'm a serial killer. And I do not know why. And then she's like, she just stops me dead set. And she goes, you got to go. And she grabs my arm and she's pulling me out of the house, little 110-pound girl, pulling me out of the house, shuts the door behind me and like looks and then shuts the curtain on the window and the door. I'm going, what the hell just happened? Right.
This is after you had been arrested?
After I'd been arrested, but before I had talked to the government about how I got hit.
Okay,
So fast forward several months later when I'm in the Fed office and I asked them and they said this girl, and then it occurred to me, all of it. It's like, of course, she thought I knew. She thought I knew that she was the rat and she thought I was going to kill her. Like I was going to sit there and be like, yeah, I'm really down about the fireworks, but that's okay because I have you now, stab, or whatever. And she thought that was what was going to happen. And it was wonderful vindication because she didn't. And again, I never saw her again after that. But yeah, it was Lori. In case anyone's listening, it was ever part of that. It was Lori from New York.
That's a wild story, dude. I'm glad. I'm glad I pushed you on that one because I didn't. You can't vote, so you follow the news, but you're not really.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
I know. Believe me, I'm thrilled with where that just went. So don't apologize there. So you don't follow the news.
And in full disclosure, because I did not want people to find out after the fact about all that stuff, because how conspiracy groups work. It's like, he was arrested by the feds, therefore he must be flipped. He must be an agent the entire time.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, of course they're not going to recruit a freaking 20-year-old kid. I don't think anyway. Because of that, I forgot my train of thought. I wasn't going to. My first Strange World episode that I made, literally a first Strange World episode 1 was called Fireworks, and I had like 3 glasses of wine, and I had a co-host. His name was Jonathan, and we just talked about that for a couple hours, and I laid it all out for people. It's like, okay, this is what happened, so that there's no rumor, hearsay.
Yeah.
That's what happened. So anyway. But so just disclosure, I put it out there in case anyone ever says I was trying to hide that. So CNN right off the bat, Fox, the MSNBC, in that order. Then I do BBC. I don't do Al Jazeera or anything like that, but I'll go to, just because they always seem to have the good dish first, I'll go to TMZ, even though I hate it. I hate going there. And then after those 5, then I just wait for people to send me links to whatever. And it's like, okay, did I miss anything? I can generally gauge how a day is going to go because I'll look at all the different social media platforms, especially my links that people send. And I know if something happened when I was away from my machine. I don't do anything on my cell phone. I just do it on this tower and these monitors. And
what kind of news are you following though? What are you looking for? Because it's not I follow, Flat Earth in the mainstream, and it's not like it's been all the time. It's very it can be quite limited. And
I will type in flat.
Like, what are you looking for?
Well, in YouTube, I'll just type in flat Earth and see what's happening there, and I'll sort by upload date and see what's happened in the last 24 hours. But in the mainstream news, I don't ever really search for flat Earth. I look for what the topic of the day is because I want to know what's being peddled out there. I'll look. I don't spend too much time on politics because it's unavoidable. Especially in the last X years, you're not going to be able to get away from that. I look at space stories. I look at science stories. When I used to look for Elon Musk stories, I don't have to anymore because I can't escape.
He's everywhere. Well, do you have? I don't want to get too political here, but do you have an opinion on? Because you don't believe in space travel,
right?
So, and here we have this guy who's like the impresario of commercial space,
right?
Now essentially like running the government. Let's be honest. So, or what's your take on that?
Well, at the very least, he might as well be a glorified press secretary. They put him out in front because why not? People love to hate him as much as they do Trump now. So that can take the heat off of Trump. Plus, they can use him to go after blue team targets, using Doge to go after. I mean, they're, cleaning up the government, blah, blah, blah. But come on, they're going after blue team pork programs first, because why wouldn't you? You're not going to go after red team.
Of course.
They've created this myth around him that drives me nuts. I don't want to get into it too much, but I'm glad he hasn't been compared to Tony Stark to the nth degree. I remind people, it's like, look, like even my family members. I remember my uncle telling me, because I go, look, what has he done? I go, yes, he's worth a lot of money on paper. Most of his Tesla stock, by the way, which is a whole another thing. But what's he done? It's like, well, he created Tesla. It's like, no, he didn't. He didn't create
anything. He didn't create
No. Yes. And I didn't realize, by the way, that changing the charter was actually something you could do, until the Founder movie came out. I always thought that, Ray Kroc, created McDonald's. No, it was the McDonald's brothers. Ray Kroc bought them out and bought the charter. And when you buy a charter of a company, you can basically say you can change the origin story of any company you want. Mm-hmm. So, Elon, in fact, I've done short videos. Maybe I'll send one to you. It's like all the things he didn't do. He gets credit.
No, I'm very familiar with Elon Musk.
He drives
in general, so
freaking insane. But he's good press because they just let him off the chain. He can say anything he wants, and people they will comment on it. He's good news because he makes up just the wildest crap. And, like the last thing we said about space, where he goes, the moon is a distraction. We're going to focus on Mars. And I'm going, what? Like nobody's even attempted to go back to the moon, people wise. I don't care about the probe crap. People since 1972. And Mars, even if you believe that you could get to Mars, if Mars was a thing you could reach for, that's a one-way trip. If that, there is no return trip from Mars, and that's the next closest thing you could go to. So why you keep talking about Mars? And again, I understand the stories. It fuels the people's imagination. People say, there could be tourism issues on the moon. It's like, well, not if you haven't sent anybody since 1972. You're not going to have tourism issues, or the Mars thing. It's like, we're going to try to colonize Mars and all this crap. I mean, the people eat it up for the most part, and I have learned through all the news feeds that the general public, I understand why Edward Bernays hated the general public. I don't hate them, but I understand why. And that is they turn and follow the mainstream media wherever it goes, even so much more now than they used to. Yeah, it drives me nuts. So, but anyway, that's the stories I basically follow. I look for anything interesting, but I mostly look for what I really should pop up, that word box with all the, that whole thing. But I look to see what's hot, what they're trying to push. And I don't necessarily auto hoax it, but I'll say, okay, what are we really talking about here? What's the ultimate goal? And
beyond flat Earth, are there any conspiracy theories that are of interest to you right now?
Ones that we could talk about. Well, I mean, the old school ones. Yeah. I mean, I know.
Well, what do you mean ones we can talk about? Why? Are there ones you can't talk about?
Ones that like YouTube doesn't want you to talk about at all, right? They don't want to talk. I mean, I can bring it up without bringing it up. They don't want to talk about 9/11. They don't want to talk about any shootings of any consequence.
Okay. All right. I see what you're saying. All right.
But when it comes to current conspiracies, stuff that, I mean, you're well versed in all sorts of conspiracies. I don't want to bore you with those.
Right.
Something new would be all the stuff that they're pushing as inevitabilities that will not happen in science, for example. The AI, if I have to hear one more time that, people are crossing over from AI into self-aware, and it drives me insane that, I listen to people water cooler talk. It's like, AI one day is going to turn into Skynet. I'm going, you realize in the movies, they didn't even explain how Skynet happened. It just happened. That's what you do in the movies when you're plot writing, right? It's like one day it became self-aware. How it becomes self-aware? Doesn't matter. We're moving on. Give me explosions, right? That whole thing. Or robots. The robot conspiracy. Oh, robots are going to take a robot. We're going to get the whole Jetsons, Rosie the robot thing. I go, no, we're not. Have you seen the robot technology? It's awful. My vacuum cleaner over there barely does the job, and I don't have any cords on the floor for it to run into. And plus, don't forget the battery technology you need to power the robots. That's the big one. Our battery technology has peaked out. We don't have anything. You're not going to get fusion reactors like Terminator 3, and a robot is going to weigh like 250 pounds. First time that thing tips over on a toddler, that's over. It's over. You're never going to happen. You're never getting out of testing. Self-driving cars is limited because it's limited to the road itself. I mean, you can drive in cities and in traffic because it can recognize the cars around it. Go on a rural road somewhere. Good luck. Have fun with that. Or electric cars. That one for me is a conspiracy. Was like, how did they convince so many people to buy electric cars? How'd they do it? Oh, I'm sorry. If you own an electric car, I apologize.
No. I don't even own a car. Tax breaks, I assume. In big part.
Yeah. I mean, that and they spearheaded the green initiative. It was like it's like, Teslas look pretty cool, but it's like, look, I've seen them in the snow. I've seen the charging stations. I've seen all this.
I'll give you a good example. Yeah, I'm not a big electric car guy myself because I went to see the eclipse. I don't know if that alters your worldview or whatever, but
no, but go ahead.
I went to go see the eclipse, and there were like the road, the truck stops or whatever where they have the stations. The cars were like backed up, like because it takes a long time to charge the fucking car, and I'm like, I would never get a solely electric vehicle just for that reason. If everybody had to get out of town, you're fucked pretty much. Because like if you need a charging station, everybody else is going to be using it too. And a lot of people like miss the fucking eclipse because they couldn't get time on the charging stations on the highways or whatever, wherever they are along the way.
Yeah. If you have to put a picnic table or multiple picnic tables next to your charging stations, there's already a problem because that means it's like pack a lunch because you're going to be there a while.
Yeah. Because you can fill up your car in like 10 minutes and get out of there in like 5 minutes. And it's like,
oh my God. Yeah.
If it takes you 3 hours to charge your car.
Yeah.
Like, good luck.
It is silly. I understand why some people do it. And it's like, but I'm not spending money on gas. I was like, yeah, but you swap out the battery. Plus, the other things people like, they don't tell you, which is like, one is if the battery gets dented, if you get in an accident in an electric car and that battery even gets scratched, it's a total. Meaning the cost of the battery swap out is so much, they just totaled the car. So the insurance prices on electric cars are freaking through the roof. And of course, the little thing, which I love, my favorite, which is don't ever try to drive your electric car through one of those deeper mud puddles, because if the battery gets wet, it could just catch fire. It's like I could take a hose to my car out there for a week straight, and you know what? I will never worry about that car catching fire. But if I park in a mud puddle in a Tesla, I would not sleep in that car. I just wouldn't for whatever reason. Yeah. And if it's salt water, it's guaranteed it's going to burst into flames. I watched a Tesla at a boat dock, in a video, back into the water, and it was burning underwater because those fires are just ridiculous. Anyway, other than those conspiracies, nothing really new. Okay, just the stuff they're trying to push on people. Well,
to that end, what do you make of the? Because it's interesting because we met in late 2019. That was a couple years after what has come to now be known as sort of like the sea change in the UFO community. Right now, UFOs are like super, super hot, and they've been incredibly hot for like the last since 2017. But it's getting hotter all the time. What's your take on all that?
I have always liked UFOs. Flat Earth didn't change UFOs that much, only that I do not think they're from Mars or Venus or Jupiter or anything like that. I think they're just older versions of us. I think they're here with us to some degree. I had the pleasure of, I'm just lucky that I got a tip that if you take night vision binoculars and wait, get your eyes adjusted and get a clear sky, you look up at the sky and you will see just amazing things. And it was true. When I was living in Colorado, that high altitude sky, the sky was just crawling with stuff, absolutely crawling with stuff. And you say, and initially I thought they were satellites. There were so many of them. It's like, is this really this many satellites? And of course, if you see the graphs and everything, well, there's got to be satellites. But then I watched some of them, like in the second or third night, and I watched like a set of them slow down and then stop for no apparent reason, and like they were, looking for directions, and then pulsed really fast, and then banked off to the left and went ballistic at an amazing rate of speed. I'm going, yeah, I don't think satellites can do that. And then at that point, I was like, okay, I'm going to watch everything in the sky, and I got hooked on it. And do I think that do I think there's stuff in the sky all the time? Yes, I've seen them for years. And I love it. I was, again, when I was in Colorado, it was really great because it was Washington, not so much. But do I think they're from, other planets? No, I don't. But I do think they're real, and I don't think they're us. I will say this about the American military and the American marketing machine. We love, if we can take credit for something because nobody else is looking around, we'll do it. Yeah. And they love to be like, oh yeah, all those UFOs probably aren't us. Wink, wink. And it's like, okay, sure. It's like, but at the same time, so you go back to Roswell. It's like, you're really going to take credit for Roswell. You're going to take credit for 1899 Texas and Aurora, or I don't know, the 1561 Nuremberg event in Germany. No. Yeah. No, but yeah, I love them. I think they're great.
Got a couple more questions, so I'll get going in a minute. Okay. Have you followed this aspect of Flat Earth that I've actually picked up on? A friend of mine, Edward Guimont, who's got a Flat Earth book coming out later, an academic book on Flat Earth coming out later next year. He mentioned this to me. We've kind of talked about it before. That, I don't know if you're aware, but there are various Flat Earthers who have ascended to fairly high political office in other countries. He says here, Lilia Lemoyne in Argentina, Luka Makala in Slovakia, Branimir Nestaverik in Serbia. Apparently, these are prominent politicians who embrace the Flat Earth in other countries. Are you aware of this at all?
I have heard one of our I have, but at the same time, the unfortunate aspects of Flat Earth is we tend to be limited to our own country. Mm-hmm. So, and I've tried to tell people that this won't do it. I go type Flat Earth into another language and then feed that word, convert it into like German or French or Italian.
Yeah, that's how I get my news. Yeah.
Feed it back into Google and see what happens.
Yeah. Right.
And our factions, and if you want to, well, I'll throw a conspiracy word for it. If one of our cells is in another country, then we generally don't talk to each other that much. I mean, yes, there's been a couple of people that have crossed over. Like some of our people went over to like a South Korean conference, and I've done a conference. But as far as non-English speaking countries or countries where I know that English is a second language for a lot of people, but we don't run into them that much. So whatever they're doing is autonomous to us. And it's cool and everything, but at the same time, I wish I could talk to them, but most of the time we just don't, they stick within their own region and then, don't branch off. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of fun. That's cool. I don't know if it ever happened here because, the Flat Earth sticker doesn't go over as well here as it does in other countries, but yeah.
Right. Right.
That's cool.
Well, it is. The other part is you don't really follow politics, but it does seem like the red team, as you call them, very conspiracy friendly, right?
Yeah.
Super conspiracy friendly. Some even kind of dabble a little in Flat Earth. They
do.
Dip their toe in it. I mean, what do you make of that whole thing? Do you feel like that's good for? I mean, just look at even though I'm a globe believer, I'm also a super. If I give you the benefit of the doubt that the Earth is flat, then I'm still super skeptical they'll ever fucking tell us.
Right.
So to me, it's like so. But with the red team being super pro conspiracy theory, Do you feel any sense that maybe that's good for flat Earth?
It is and it isn't. What I have learned is that red team. So we do have a lot of blue team members, but blue team members don't like talking about it. Blue team members will not be content creators. Blue team members don't go to conferences. Red team members go to conferences. They will go to meetups. The blue team members that I have talked to, over the years, they like to be kind of quiet because, as you know, blue team, for lack of a better term, has more faith, not even blind faith, just faith. They have more faith in the government than red team does.
And science.
In science, yes, the science side. If you go to any university, you could probably plot a graph for good or bad. And yes, the higher you go, your master's and your PhD are more likely to be blue team. Mm-hmm. And because of that, and I've said this many times, and it's not a slight on flat earthers, but I say, look, if someone's got a master's degree in a physical science or even a bachelor's degree in physical science, you're probably not going to be able to do anything with them. Master's degree in anything, you're going to have a problem. And if they have a PhD in anything, they're done. You will not be able to touch them. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's exception to every rule. There's some people out there that have flipped, but even those people are very quiet, very low key about it. So yeah, we deal with it, it's like, at the same time, but at the same time, it kind of works out because when we're doing conferences there, we don't have a lot of squabbles, but at the conferences, we don't talk about politics that much. Right. So if there are blue team members, they just have to kind of grin and bear it because there are some red team hats at the conferences, to be sure. You're not going to be wearing, I've never seen anyone wear a blue political hat at a conference ever.
Right.
So,
okay, so one last thing that I got a lot of joke question, but one last thing is, we to circle back to this upheaval in the flat Earth community recently. Yeah, is it possible that, setting aside all of your speculation, maybe because what I thought when I saw this was you got Pastor Will, right? You got Pastor Will. You got Robbie Davidson, who's a super religious dude. Yeah, maybe there was some kind of common ground there where they connected, and that's kind of what he kind of like talked Robbie out of flat Earth by way of their shared religious beliefs.
That's not bad, by the way. That's actually not a bad thought at all. However, there was never any interaction publicly between them, or even back chatter that I heard about. Will Duffy seemed to be focused on the current people. Will Duffy, he was pushing buttons. Every current he was going after Whitsitt. He was going after David Weiss. He was going after me. He was going after Eric DeBay. In fact, everybody, like the top 10 flat Earth content creators, he was doing public shout outs. It's like, I want this person to call me and I want them to go to Antarctica. Right. And he sent emails out to everybody he could. I don't think he sent an email to Robbie Davidson, not because Robbie hadn't done good work, but again, because he was out. He wasn't in the current conference. He was looking for the people that had been to the conferences in the last couple of years. Yeah. So, I mean, yes. Do they share a common ground? Yeah. But we never saw anything along those lines. And again, somebody should have said something publicly, even if they were to challenge each other to a debate or anything like that. Will Duffy didn't seem to care about debating anyone in the biblical side of things. That he was really, really just focused on the experiment and trying to get somebody down there. He's very, very single-minded when it came to that. So, okay. But yeah, hey, you know what? You're the first person to suggest it. So gold star. It's good.
I mean, to me, yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm not really super on board with the payoff system idea myself. So to me, that makes a little more sense. Now, let me allow you the opportunity to sort of refute this video. I haven't watched it because I don't have all that much time in my life. But for the Will Duffy, he says here on the video, Mark Sargent declines free trip to Antarctica because of the trolls. So for anyone who wonders what does that mean? What is his assertion there?
No, I don't want to use the word hate, but because I'm old enough. I was there when the internet trolls were born. I watched it happen in real time. It's like, oh my God, when young men realized that they could say anything they want on the internet with no repercussion whatsoever.
Oh, it's a nightmare, dude.
Oh my God.
So I don't get in arguments with like anonymous people online because 99% of the time they're like 15 years old and they're in fucking England.
Yeah.
It's like, get the fuck out of here. I don't have time to waste with you, kid.
Yeah,
Go on.
And I understood the Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back reference where they took their movie money.
Yeah, exactly.
And they flew around the country and just beat up trolls. I understood that. It's like, did you say on such and such a date, go suck a dick? It's like, and they just beat the shit out of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I totally got that. And so when it comes to our content, globalist content creators, there are some that are worse than others. And I don't like, I like people that, I like you, you're fair and
Thank you.
You point and counterpoint. We've spent time together. I could hang out with you, but there are some really aggressive people that all they want to do is push your buttons. They want to go for the reaction. And these were people that were going to be going down on this trip. They were basically just glorified trolls. That's all they were. And it's like, no, I'm not. I don't like hanging out with these guys. If these guys show up at meetups and conferences, we usually kick them out. And you're saying I have to spend like 2 weeks in a small, contained area with these people where I can't escape. It's like I'd rather chew glass. Okay. So Will Duffy can make of it what he wants, but it's like, nah, I got better things to do. I mean, if I needed any other reason not to go on that, it's like, okay, so it's a really long trip. I'm going to be fatigued as hell. I have to sleep on the snow. It's going to be miserable. I'm going to have to take a crap in a bucket, which is going to freeze. And I have to do this with trolls, with content. And I again, they are what they are. So yes, are they channels? Are they anti-flat Earth channels? Yes, they are. But they are meant to. They're not objective in any way, shape, or form. They are like, we are going to push every button that Flat Earth has. So
yeah, it's really kind of crazy. I think we talked about this the last time you were on in 2021, because I got a weird taste of this when I went to the conference, because I would like post pictures and people would be like, fuck you, say horrible things. And I'm just like, and they were completely neutral, almost as a thought experiment. It was just like, I'm like at the Flat Earth convention, here are the pictures. Like, not like this is awesome, go Flat Earth, whatever. Right. I was just like, here it is. Here's an observational post. And I would get like attacked. Time would go by, like 6-9 months later, I'd still get notifications that someone like came upon the fucking thing, was like, what are you, a fucking moron? It's like, I'm talking to you tonight with the Will Duffy thing. It's kind of opened my eyes in a sense to, I didn't realize that the ecosystem for reverse Flat Earth was as big as the Flat Earth. I didn't realize they had their own community and sort of like I said, ecosystem of channels and everything else. So that's pretty wild. I'm gonna have to dig into that a little more.
The quick thing about trolls, I like to joke around, but there's been several memes over the years, and one of them was, there was a challenge some years ago. It's like, can your video go from, before they had thumbs up and before they got rid of the thumbs down, can your video go 100 thumbs up without a thumbs down? Right? Can that even be done? And it was almost impossible. I mean, you could have a video about kittens and puppies playing together, in the middle of a kid's cancer ward. Right. And you'd still, by the time you got to 90, someone would be like, I hate you. I hate your religion. Everything here sucks. Thumbs down, unsubbed. And it's like, you weren't even subbed to begin with, but they love saying that. Right. Mm-hmm. And, or my saying that I love, it's like, the old saying, which is, if you don't have anything nice, don't say anything at all. Now, if you don't have anything, nice to say, well, you're probably on the internet, in the comment section of YouTube.
That's a great line. Okay. Last question before I let you go. It's a light one. It's an easy one. Okay. Top hat guy. Do we know the whereabouts of the top hat guy from Dallas? I forget his name now. He was from like Hawaii.
Oh, right. There was a documentary. I think I know the younger guy, right? With the ill-fitting suit.
No. Was that the other guy?
He
was a big fat guy. He was a big fat guy. And he had a top
that guy.
hat.
Oh, he was one of ours, right?
Yeah. He was a good dude.
I have no idea where he is.
I got to look up his name. He was like from Hawaii. He went to jail for selling acid at Grateful Dead concerts and everything. And then he escaped jail. Oh, man.
Oh, by the way, our biggest channel, by the way, ODD Reality, I think he's back in jail. That was again the breakout joke. He's like 300,000 subs or so, and he's always had more subs than anybody because he also does rap in his spare time. And like every time I hear about him, it's like, oh yeah, he's in jail. It's like, what?
Weird.
Yeah, whatever.
What about the musician guy that had the funny little? The musician guy that had like the funny little instrument.
Flat Earth man, that guy.
Yes, I love that guy.
Yeah, he's still doing his thing. He's a British guy that lives in Spain.
Really?
Yeah, and he's Conspiracy Music Guru is the channel, and he's still doing stuff. Still,
love that guy.
Still, yeah, he's great. I was really glad. I still to this day use his tracks from that country album, because he's definitely not country. For all meetups that I do, I put one of his tracks in there, and
he's a total sweetheart. That guy.
Yeah, he's wonderful. I love him a lot.
All right. So what's next for you, Mark Sargent? I have a feeling you're going to be doing a lot of interviews as this all unfolds.
Well,
you have book plans, conference plans.
I am working on a script. The funny thing is, before all this happened, I was working on a script for. They asked me to write one for a documentary, which somebody else was going to shoot. I was going to call it Beyond the Curve, as sort of a takeoff of Behind the Curve, because the producers of Behind the Curve, they hated us, and they could have done a sequel so easily. And I looked through their IMDb pages. It's like, you guys aren't doing really anything. I mean, you worked on a couple television episodes here, and you did this. It's like, call us up. You could do it, but they don't, for whatever reason, they don't want to touch us. It's like you made it in the top 10 of every film festival you went into, but whatever. Yeah. I'm going to do more interviews, talk about, see if I can stretch out the drama and make it to where the everybody kind of see where it ends up, because we'll see if the other people surface. Right now it's just Jaron. I don't know if anyone else will come forward to talk about it. Do more meetups, get ready for the conference. I'm going to be
what's the conference? You keep mentioning a conference.
Oh yeah. We're the American conference this year will be in North Carolina.
Oh,
and
when?
It'll be in September.
Really? Well, do you know the date?
It'll be probably the third weekend in September.
I might have to go down there.
It'll be the weekend of the hang on, March, April, May, June.
Is Karen putting this on?
No, Karen is not doing it this year. This is the first year it's going to be out, and it's going to be done by somebody outside our community, but they're in the paranormal. Actually, the guy that's putting it on, he actually specializes in Bigfoot conferences, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, and he had me on his show a couple times. Like, I really think Flat Earth could be a cool thing. He's going, we should do a conference, and you should help me with this. And it's like, all right, so I'm going to help pick the speakers.
Does it have a name?
Just Flat Earth Conference.
Okay.
2025. That's all.
No website or anything.
No, it hasn't come up yet because we don't have the speakers yet. But we'll get them. It'll be the weekend of the 20th.
All right. Keep me posted on that, because I will. Want to come down, and if the guy who's organizing it, if he's a Bigfoot guy, do you know his name?
Yes, I
can
do.
tell me.
Dr. John Stamey.
All right, yeah. If he's listening, maybe he knows who I am.
Stamey. He's done a bunch of conferences over the years. In fact, I think he's doing one.
Check it out.
But that's what he specialized in. It's like, you know what? Part North Carolina, I think we could do that. It's fairly close to where we did the last one, because the other one we're doing in Spartanburg.
Yeah.
The what?
That would be cheap for me to get down there. So
yeah. No, remind me. I'll shoot you a thing, but we should be know.
I'll be keeping an eye out.
3 weeks or so, the speakers that are going to go down there. Of course, the speaker list has changed a little bit.
I can imagine,
but or at least the potentials, because of what's going on. But that's fine. We've got more than enough people. We have people knocking on our door to speak at these things. Cool. Anything else?
All right. Well, that's it. Where do you want people to go to check out your stuff? I'm amazed. Again, it's like I'm like old. You're older than me, so kudos to you, because I can't keep up with this YouTube shit. It's like all you talk about is these channels and these creators and shit and all this stuff.
No.
It's like a huge it's a huge subculture that I'm completely unaware of. So where do you want people to go? I noticed that at the Flat Earth convention too. Everybody's handing me cards and shit with their YouTube channel on it. I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy. So what's your channel you want to plug?
All you have to do is go into any search engine and type in Flat Earth Mark. That's it. That'll be easy. And then people can just follow the rabbit hole from there. If you run into my channel, great. But as you know, there are all sorts of channels out there. So wherever it takes you, fantastic. Eventually you'll get to me. But Flat Earth Mark, You'll be just fine. And that's it. The Flat Earth Market should get you to my channel. There's lots of stuff out there, though. I mean, don't take what I say as gospel. I'm not here to convince you or persuade you. I'm just here to put the idea into your head. You figure it out for yourself, because in the end, it's your journey. And I'm just here to kind of inspire from time to time.
There you go, man. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it, and I enjoyed the chat a lot.
Thank you.